It is
You don't want anybody to know you?
No.
6 p.m. and so I'm going to open the July 19th, 2022 meeting of the Rutland Conservation Commission. We're on Zoom. Instructions, etc. are on the agenda. We are being recorded and broadcast on local channel 192. This will be rebroadcast on our channels, sent over video on demand service, and on YouTube. There. Before we begin the formal agenda, I want to talk about open meeting law for just a minute. The good news is the Lieutenant Governor signed the extension of the open meeting law changes that were put in place way back in COVID days, early COVID days. So remote meetings may continue, and any number of members may not be in are allowed to not be in the room.
As long as they participate.
If they participate there, anyone can be remote. And in fact, for the record, remote meetings, hybrid meetings have always been allowed. We just never really used them until COVID. But because of that, until March 31, 2023, we get to keep going the way we've been going. We'll see what happens after that. It is my hope that they make these changes permanent and not the one that makes every meeting of a public body required to be hybrid, which is a different law that, in fact, that one almost made it into this one. The Senate shot that down. So, moving on. Share that screen. There we go. Meeting minutes.
Make a motion to accept as written.
Second.
Even though we're all in the room, I'm still going to do a roll call.
Gentilucci, aye.
Clock eye.
Abstain. Like.
That's right.
Elko, aye.
Crane eye. Carries. Goodbye to minutes. No, that one. Ugh, stupid software. All right, no submissions tonight. There's nothing on the schedule, so here we go. Let us open a hearing for the notice of intent for Blue Sky Towers, the 3 LLC for 12 Phillips Road. I will leave Chris up there so you all can see him. There are others present, so let me just briefly go over the rules of public hearings, excuse me. There'll be a brief presentation, hopefully brief presentation by the applicant. The Conservation Commission will ourselves ask questions and make comments. After that time, the public will be allowed to ask questions and make comments. Please wait to be recognized by me, the chair. We would like your name and address. It can be just the street if you're nervous about that. For the record, I do reserve the right to cut someone off if they're going too far afield, because this is important. By Mass General Law and DEP regulations, this is a hearing about wetland concerns, and that's all. I'm not saying don't talk about anything else. I can guarantee you, though, that no other matter, aside from wetlands, will be considered in our decision. Having said that, Chris Lucas, I see you there, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional wetland scientist and registered professional soil scientist. Mr. Chairman, I was wondering, I contacted Tamika. Would it be possible to share my screen? Because it's saying it's disabled. It might be easier for me to, so I can point around it.
Oh, absolutely, yes. You know what? And I knew I would forget, because that's what I do. There, you should be okay now.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, can you see this?
Yep, just came up.
Excellent. I'm also here virtually with Ben Messersmith with Proterra Design Group. He's the engineer working on this with us. We're here tonight on behalf of Blue Sky Towers 3. I'm going to make a brief presentation and then open it up to questions and answers with the board. Unfortunately, we did not receive a file number for this evening. I did reach out to DEP, but it doesn't appear brief. I'll check my email before we close before the end of the presentation here, just to make sure, but we haven't seen anything for a file number.
I haven't, Chris, just so you know, I haven't seen anything either, and I normally get a copy of it.
Right, so I think with the submission, they're holding everyone, I think, to the 21 days. So I'm guessing we'll get it later this week, which doesn't help us tonight. The parcel is approximately 14-acre parcel shown here in green, just off Phillips Road. This portion here is existing house and a barn storage structure. This portion of the site is pretty much developed. The remainder of the site is primarily forested with a series of cart paths and wetlands throughout. The residence is located to the north and east, forested area to the south. There's another forested area to the west, and the Central Tree Middle School is located to the southwest of the site, and then Naquag Elementary School is located to the northwest. There's no rare species habitat on the site, no certified or potential vernal pools, no areas of critical environmental concern, and no wellhead protection zones. The site is located in an outstanding resource water for public water supply watershed, and we also have several Zone A surface water supply protection areas on the site. We delineated the property in April of 2021. We've had 2 site walks with various members of the commission, one in October of 21 and another in March of 20 of this year. So I know several of you are familiar with the site. The resource areas consist of inland bank, BVW, and isolated vegetated wetland. There's kind of a horseshoe here. Shown in blue is wetland A, and this portion of the site here. This is one large horseshoe. It kind of rounds the property. There's another small wetland here, wetland B. It does connect apparently through drainage to a larger wetland, so it is bordering. And then there's a small, tiny little pocket here in the middle of the site, which some of you saw, I believe, in October. It's wetland C. There's also a series of streams running through the site. There's a stream 1 flows generally in this direction to the south of the site and off site. Stream 2 flows through this direction, westerly under the access road to the school in this direction. And there's a very small swale here connecting these areas with minimal flow. All these areas on the site were mapped as a Zone A surface water protection area by Mass DEP. We disagreed with that, and we contacted Richard Friend with Mass DEP to review the designations. And on June 2nd of 21, we conducted a site walk, and there were several adjustments made. This plan shows the approved areas per Mass DEP. The documentation is included in the notice of intent. This stream is still part of the tributary system, so it does have the 200-foot Zone A shown here, as well as here. This stream was shown to be disconnected, so it does not have a Zone A protection area, as well as this stream 1 on this portion of the property. As you can see here, this is the Zone A designation, because there is a point here where there's continuous flow. Obviously, we didn't observe it all the way down, but this would be the closest point to the site if this is in fact connected all the way through. We also looked at stream stats and confirmed all 3 streams are intermittent. This one doesn't even show up in the stream stats program. And stream 1 and 2 are approximately 0.04 and 0.05 respectively square miles, which is well below the half square mile threshold to be considered perennial. We've provided that documentation in the notice of intent. We're here tonight primarily for an access roadway. The area in green here is the 100-foot buffer zone off the wetlands, as well as here. So we're primarily, the work will occur in this zone through here for an access roadway. This portion here is completely outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So the tower itself, which consists of a 140-foot tall monopole with a total height of 144 feet with an optional lightning rod, and a 60-foot by 60-foot compound are located here. So again, this just reoriented. This is Phillips Road here. This is one of the plan sheets. This is EC-1 in your plan set. Here's the house. There's an existing gravel road. Our project, they're starting here with the gravel driveway. And it continues. Here's the 100-foot buffer zone here. Here's the Zone A designation here. So our primary work within the buffer zone is located through this area. We're also crossing a wetland here. This portion of the site is outside of all resource areas and buffer zones. This is just the zoomed in portion of that gravel road to show the board a little more clearly what we're doing here, which is really your interest. We've looked at a variety of alternatives to avoid the wetlands on this site. I know some of the commission members are familiar with this. We looked at off-site locations, which we have numerous documented in the appendices. We looked at the no-build alternative, which wouldn't provide cellular service, which is needed in the area. And we also looked at 4 options for access into the site. Going back here, one option was to come in through Phillips Road, cross into the zone area, and then cross this stream and wetland here, and then back into the site. We wanted to avoid the zone A because we're not allowed to put stormwater in that area. It is a bit restrictive. That was one of the options presented, which is included in the package. Another option, there's an existing cart path that cuts into the site. One option was to use this cart path, but as you can see, it's a very wide wetland here. This would have resulted in about 3,500 square feet of wetland impact. The option which was preferred, and I know several members did indicate that they concurred with us that this was the best option, the wetland is right here. So this would be the wetland impact right here. This is our preferred alternative. It's the one that's presented in detail in the NOI package on the plans. It results in 1,050 square feet of permanent wetland impact at this location. As mitigation, we're proposing 3 replication areas shown in red. This first one here is the cart path. We're going to remove this and restore it to have a functioning wetland throughout. The owner will have access through this roadway to connect to the existing cart path system, so this will no longer be used. That's about 590 square feet. We have another area of 545 square feet in this location, and another area of 290 square feet here for a total of 1,425. I know we had discussed during the site walk in March, trying to get to the 2-to-1 ratio, but as you recall, there were numerous large diameter trees. These were the 3 locations we looked at to get as large a number as we could. Being 1.4 to 1, we believe that's fair and reasonable. It meets the state requirements. We could do a little bit more here, but there are some trees in here that would have to be cleared. If that's something the commission wants, we can entertain it, but we feel that it's not necessary. We prefer to keep the larger trees intact here. The project fully meets the performance standards for work in the BVW with these minimal impacts. We're restoring them. We have a detailed replication plan in the package outlining all the specifications. So we have 10 trees and 25 shrubs spread out through these areas, as well as a wetland seed mix. The other access location we had looked at was coming in through the school properties, which would follow this road here and into the tower. Unfortunately, we're not able to obtain an easement from the town for this access, so we are proposing it through here. With that, I'll leave it open to the board for any questions or comments.
First, I think getting rid of that cart path is a phenomenally good idea. I'm very happy about that. And I agree 1.4 to 1 is in excess of the state standard, and although it may not be the ideal that we like, even our 2 to 1 is not by bylaw, so we ask, and we are happy that you got to 1.4 to 1. We can talk about this as a commission, but you and I, Chris, discussed that I don't think removing the trees to make a larger replication area is the right trade-off. And unless somebody on the commission disagrees, we'll just go with that.
I don't think that's a net benefit in the end.
No,
Personally.
absolutely not. So those are my very first thoughts for that. Anyone else in the commission? Really this simple? I mean, the truth is,
we've seen it for a long time.
Seen it
Yes.
for a while.
This is the best solution for everything.
Yep.
I agree.
Agreed. No other questions? Well then, let's open it up to the public. Does anyone wish to have questions or comments about the wetlands concerns on this project? Giving a nice slow count. Hearing none. Are there, now I know we have to continue the meeting because there's no DEP number, that's fine. Do we want to begin discussing conditions tonight? Or do we want to wait until next time? Because we have to continue anyway.
We have to continue, we'll wait.
All right. Then given that, I would like a motion to continue this hearing to August, what the heck is it, 3? I can't do the math. Hold on. August 2.
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Pelco, aye.
Langer and I.
Hawkeye.
Chancellor Chiai.
And that was actually a roll call, not an all in favor, but it was all in favor anyway, so Crane, aye. Thanks, Chris. I think we're all set. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
We'll see you on August 2nd. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Good luck getting DEP to get those numbers to you.
I'll work on it. I'll make sure we have it for the 2nd. Thank you.
All right, so now we need to go up here and do this and do that. And let's close that. And we'll do that. By the way, there's some interesting stuff in here about the exact replication areas and all the math behind it. I think that's it also. Yeah, moving on. Okay. Then, an RDA. So there's it's not a hearing, but let's open our discussion for the request for determination of applicability for William Zottely for the crossing along what I will simply call Wachusett Road for simplicity.
It is. Well, we all went on the site walk and we saw what we had.
Sorry. That should actually be it, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the right one.
And I believe it was correctly defined, and we're asking for, I guess, a agreement that those wetlands are defined on this plan correctly, and if we choose to do something, we come up with a notice of intent within 100 feet.
Okay. Jared, you and I were on that walk.
We went, Joe and I went to.
I was going to say,
We
you
went
guys have been
different.
there.
No, we went,
Right,
we went with him.
you were before then.
We were before them. We went different times because we were seeing
Oh.
something else. So we said,
Fine.
we called him and said, hey.
Aren't you special? So go ahead. I'll let Scott, you start.
I mean, they're very easily defined of what you have. I agree with the flagging. You were actually more conservative than usual.
No.
Yes, you were more conservative.
I mean, yes, I was.
And that,
I'm looking to save.
yeah, you. I mean, it's really not arguable what you marked. I mean, yeah.
Jared.
I mean, I would agree. Wetland flagging looked fine to me, and the scope of the work is essentially finishing the gravel pavement for this
Right.
roadway, right?
That's
It's,
what
it's
we-
essentially going to be gravel
Yeah.
fill on top of what's out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Just to finish
So-
that last section.
Are you repairing the culvert? As
And
part
we'll
of
repair that
Correct.
culvert.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the one towards the Princeton.
Right there.
Right.
And then middle wetland, yeah, that's noted as isolated, so technically that's non-jurisdictional.
Yep.
So it's really just at the north end, near the town line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seemed pretty straightforward to me, based on the fact that it really is just kind of a fill condition with the gravel you're putting in.
Mhm.
It's not really going to be a whole lot of earth disturbance.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not-
virtually no disturbance, just
Right.
packing in,
Yeah,
just more
yeah.
Right.
Placing a compactor.
raising the level.
Fill in the ruts.
Fill in the ruts.
Joe? Anything to say?
I'm good. I have no problems at all with it.
Yeah, fundamentally I agree also. I don't have an issue. Skip, anything
No,
to
I'm
question,
good.
comments, anything?
No.
All right, well, what's the correct determination number?
We do this every time, don't we?
I know, it's usually 3.
You don't have it already open?
I don't. I should. I saved it.
So you're just gonna make it as good as the town did?
As good as the town, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be
We're proposing,
negative determination
we're
number
on
3.
the agenda to go to the select board first meeting in August. to
So when are you gonna start
Seeking
paving?
permission to be able to do this.
So when are you gonna start paving?
No paving, there'll be no paving.
Ask for forgiveness later.
So.
It's a 3.
We're
It is.
allowed to do that, to help the town out in these tough times.
We appreciate it. Next time I go over
work
that
with the
road, I'll be
buffer
thinking
zone.
of you.
That's right.
But
Skip's gonna have flashbacks of this.
does not
childhood.
alter an area subject to protection.
Yeah, I am, already have.
All right, I'd like a motion for a negative determination of applicability for reason number 3.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Gentilucci, aye.
Clock eye.
Langer and I.
Delco, aye.
Crane, aye.
Thank you,
You're all set for us.
thank you,
I'll send that to you, gentlemen.
thank you very much.
Already the B form and that form, and so now it must be time to open a hearing for notice of intent for Dave Lucier Builders at 142 Campbell Street. Dave, take it away.
I was told by my cousin, the engineer, that everything's fine, just go to the meeting, so here I am. You guys were gonna walk it, I think, last week, maybe, I don't know if you ever did.
We did.
Yeah.
It's pretty defined back there.
Yeah. Yeah, we found a tree.
The tree?
The tree that's marked on ours.
Yeah, right, yeah. But because it comes down such a, I mean, you can kind of see that edge anyway, the flags are there, but.
Exactly. We did see the flags.
and the other line-
As usual, a few feet here, a few feet there, it doesn't matter. We agreed that the flags are fundamentally correct.
And then the closest we would probably get is on that top corner, 25 feet or so.
Right, that's 25.
Yeah, otherwise, I'm not seeding any more than I have to. I'm gonna leave it natural back there, so just get the slope down.
Okay, Clay.
All day.
Plenty of wood chips.
So,
I was it on this one.
You didn't hear me.
He didn't hear you. He doesn't know that yet.
what's that?
You don't know you can use wood chips, do
Yes, she
you?
does. She was here last time when we talked about
I wasn't here last time.
it. Oh, you weren't
I
here.
remember I was on vacation again.
You and your
Yeah,
vacations.
yeah, gang.
Still is.
This doesn't. Why can't I find the? Yeah, oh, because they're right in front of me. That's why I couldn't find them.
Oh, erosion control detail.
Yeah, erosion control is just a. That's your plan?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I plan on doing.
Other questions or comments?
Nope.
Do you have a DEP number?
I don't know, Mike, like I told you, Mike.
I haven't
probably don't
seen
have
anything,
that.
so.
Yeah, all right.
Let's get
Probably
some
come in
or
there.
something.
How wet is wet?
Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or just the whole thing is once erosion control's in, does he really have to tell us before he starts? They're supposed to.
Of course it's supposed to. Everybody's supposed to.
So we should start reminding him that.
Yeah.
So after you do your silt fence, just tell us. If we want to look at it, we'll look at it.
Pete's the neighbor, he'll hear me in there.
All right. Let's get a motion to continue this hearing until August 2nd, please.
Make a motion to continue?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Gentilucci, aye.
Clock eye.
Langer and I.
Delco, aye.
Crane eye. Sheesh was pointing to Skip, but he wasn't
I
looking.
thought maybe you were.
Yeah, but I was looking at the screen.
All
I'm trying
right.
to pay attention, you know.
Let's open a
you just don't
hearing
care.
for notice of intent for Lucier Builders at 144 Campbell Street.
What I just said.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good at this.
I had.
You might have been here before, huh?
Any other questions on this one? Closest point on this one is probably
For the same, almost the same amount right there.
yeah. What's the grade on this finish grade?
Slope wise, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll tell you when, August 2nd, and I'll figure it out.
It
I'd
looks.
say it's probably 3 to 1.
I was gonna say it looks pretty steep, but I know that I'm zoomed out, so it looks a little more than usual?
Those are 1 foot contours.
Those are ones?
Why would they do that?
Never mind.
On the blue ones.
Well, it's present here.
No, they're 15s.
Hmm?
They're 15s. Drops like this, like,
Oh, I'll show you one like that soon. All right. Any other questions? Comments?
No.
Motion to continue to August 2nd, please.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Stoke eye.
Clock eye.
Langer 9.
Gentilucci,
Crane eye. There.
Done deal.
Mostly painless.
See you on my birthday.
Hint, hint,
Oh,
nudge,
we'll have
nudge.
to bring
Bringing cake.
Tamika, bring a cake.
Better way to celebrate. Come in here.
You bringing a beer? We'll bring a cake.
I don't think I can bring beer in here, but
You just can't drink it.
You're drinking the common.
if there's no TV, people will show up. He loves that stuff.
Well, as long as you're not selling it, I guess you don't need a license.
That's
right?
true.
It's my birthday. Why am I bringing it? You should be bringing it.
Almost had you convinced.
Alrighty, let's have our discussion for request or determination of applicability for Wachusett Greenways on the rail trail. They didn't include any maps this time, but we talked about this last time.
Yep.
Peter, Colleen is here as well.
Oh.
Abrams.
Colleen, welcome.
Took me a few minutes to find you.
Ah,
There and there.
weren't we posted for the lower level of the library?
I'm sure you were. I just go on memory, you know. where you
Oh. See, if I did that, I would never have found this place.
I'll talk to you later.
Alrighty.
This was the one that they were replacing one of the old railroad structures.
Yeah, the stone culvert.
Yeah.
With something that's a little more up to date.
I was gonna say, modern,
It actually works.
functioning.
Well, some of theirs don't. I'm not supposed to talk now, am I?
Mm-hmm.
You can talk.
Feel free.
Talk.
This is not a hearing, this is a discussion.
So some of those railroad culverts are amazing, and some we built covers for them and so forth. But this one it's really sort of, it's not a stream crossing. It's a wet area. And I noticed on the other side of the wet area, they had just put in flat rocks across the top. So this one, when they opened it up, had a lot of big flat rocks, but not a true box. But we ended up with two 24-inch culverts and a pretty pricey amount for the pipe for this one little culvert, but it's definitely more capacity than what was there before. So that goes back to it should work, it should be fine.
And this should relieve some of the backup that's occurring.
Who knows, there's
Well, we
more
hope it
water
does.
and more beavers, but
I'll tell you, the beavers are playing hell with the water levels over there, and so everything is so much higher than it used to be that I don't know that the original intent of just let some water pass from that area to this area. It's unclear to me if we were to try and formally delineate, that it would delineate even any close to the way that anybody in the past has done it. But
Is the Beaver Dam on the rail trail property? Or is it off the property? Is it on somebody else's property?
the beaver dam is on everybody's property. It's on the rail bed, which is either owned by DCR or Fish and Wildlife, depending on which day you ask.
Yeah.
And then it's also on, I think Fish and Wildlife has part of the pond that goes over there, and then it's on the housing project, what is it called?
Bryce Lemon?
Bryce Lemon,
Bryce
Yeah.
now, right? Anyway, it's on, that comes off the little road there, the new road that also comes out onto Main Street. Somebody knows the name of that road.
Have you given any thought to the removal of the beavers?
So we actually had a beaver consultant come from the western part of the state who came way back when we did one of the culverts out Muddy Pond Outlet. And he did an assessment to look at a beaver deceiver kind of device. And his recommendation, as well as another gentleman who does help with beaver deceivers, should we get to that point, is to remove the beavers before you do the deceiver, because if they've been used to this elevation, they're not going to accept this elevation.
Right, they're gonna,
So if and it's a lot of money and it's a lot of maintenance, so, but we did have a communication with the, Bryce, with Tom, Larson, thank you. This is a long day, we just put in our bridge in Sterling and my brain went away, it's gone. Anyway, the stream actually goes through on the Bryce property, where the most, that's the lowest point of the water. So if we get to the point, they said it would be acceptable for us to put a structure in there. That's all verbal at this point. Fish and Wildlife has also said that they're fine with our continuing on that path. So at some point, we probably will do one there. And now we have to a little bit watch what happens with these two 24-inch culverts. Is that going to become a new, will they decide they want to block that? So,
yeah.
So this is all sort of ends up being kind of beaver management things, but also we're working on cleaning up the trail and doing some machine maintenance, ditch cleaning, and which isn't really, it's not really, I think, permit action, but it's action to help keep everything as clean and flowing as we can.
Okay.
Yeah, here you can see this, so it's right in this area. This makes me think of what I saw when I was there. This does not. This looks like a well-defined stream, but this whole area around here has become water because of the beavers.
But where the culvert is, which is some direction, if that's north is up. That's
Yeah, the
south
north is
of-
up, so
Is there a
the,
number on there, on that little, looks like the nose on Campbell's, on Mount Mansfield. Number 30, going straight, nope, go to the right and up. Sorry, just a little bit right. Where the one stream comes in, just
Oh,
right
yeah.
there. Yeah, so that, you can see it. Oh, no, it does show it continues on. Well, I don't know, but it's not, it doesn't have the same volume anywhere near as the other one, where there's a large railroad culvert that goes underneath the trail, just, that way, west.
okay. Questions or comments?
If you go to the Board of Health, they'll give you a permit to remove the beaver without spending a lot of money.
How does
It's unclear that the beaver is on the actual rail trail property.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
I saw it
That's,
at 5 o'clock, and yep, where the lodge might be on the other side.
right.
But the beaver was, whatever, they're everywhere. Yes, we just need to go through the whole process
Mhm.
and make sure it's, something goes to Concom, something goes to Board of Health. We'll attempt to do everything that needs to be done. And it's not, so far it hasn't been inexpensive, but
Yeah,
we kind of like to get to the beaver deceiver idea and at least try it. We looked at it in numerous possible areas, and we'd like to try one and see if we can maintain it. Some people say they work, some people say they don't work very well, so.
All right.
Alan, did you have anything to offer on this?
No, I don't really have anything to add for that. Dan gave the green light for the emergency removal of the culvert, so you guys are done with that already.
That's a different DCR.
Yeah, I'm Alan, I spoke with you on the phone last week.
Oh, another, yeah, so we have multiple names and people.
Yeah,
Oh
there
my
was
goodness,
confusion.
yeah, confusion. And we're still not sure who actually owns it, but both DCR and Fish and Wildlife are happy for the other one to be engaged in the
Yeah.
management, and there is still Fish and Wildlife property there, so we do stay in communication with them.
All right.
Yes, and they also came and were present during the actual work, the emergency culvert work,
Oh, good.
they being DCR.
Oh, okay,
Were
they did
present.
show us.
Yes, they did. They knew exactly what to do. They came twice. They looked at it again when it was finished. They came back to take pictures. So that, they did a nice job of that. That's fine. Done. But it's good to be here and kind of have you engaged in this, because we're going to keep going with restorations and hopefully new rail trail construction, so.
All righty. What do we think is the right reason for this one? Same one? Same number 3?
Yeah.
Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Do I need to start pointing some more?
You will.
Roll call.
Don't lie.
Clock eye.
Langer,
Chip Salucci, aye.
Crane eye. I didn't care who I was pointing to, I'll tell you the truth.
I'll sit like this. Skips, right?
All right, they're all set. She'll get that to you in the mail.
Thank you. May I ask you a question?
Yes.
So when you give your responses, it means aye if you give the same response? Like, how do you say no?
There was a nay.
Oh, and otherwise you have your names. Okay, I'm just curious. All right, thank you,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen, I'll give that to you.
thank you. And thank Tamika, who was super helpful.
Oh, we could do nothing without
Communicating,
Tamika.
yeah. Everyone I spoke with said, oh, Tamika gets it done. So I don't know if I'm supposed to give an advertisement, but thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, thank you.
That's good, I appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We're gonna take business out of order. We're gonna do reorganization probably last today, or at least, well, certainly further down than this.
You're so fired.
Thank you. Thank you.
Freed up some time for you now.
I'll let somebody else deal with the viewpoint and the joys of,
Oh, man.
anyway, shutting up now. So let us talk about 105 Kenwood Drive. This came to my attention last week when the building inspector called. He actually has problems also with 107, but 107 has already been sold, and he's dealing with the new landowner, with the new owners, and also with Janke, who is the builder for that. 105, however, has some fascinating issues. Let me bring up this. Okay, Dave McCrae took some photos and I took some photos. These first two, what's that?
These are Alan's photos.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan.
Oh,
My mistake. I try to give credit where credit's due, and I don't. So there. So this is towards, if the Kenwood is behind you, this is towards the left side of the property. You can see where the drain daylights and then drops down. I have another photo about that later. And you can see all the siltation working all the way down. Now, when I went today, I was not dressed to go into the woods, so I did not. So I cannot say that the siltation has or has not made it all the way to the wetlands.
I don't believe it has.
Just your stuff?
Yeah.
I don't think it has reached. I did go down with Craig.
Oh, good,
and look,
okay.
And it's not yet in the wetlands.
Let's just go through photos first, and I'll go through some other things. So this is at the line, so if we go back, this photo's taken basically standing right here. And looking towards, that's 107. You can see all the water. You can see the merest sort of erosion controls on one part of the property. I can't tell you if that's 105s or 107s. It's
Oh, there's two,
somewhere along the border.
There's two wellheads, so you should, it's the closest wellhead.
Yeah.
True. That's true. That would-
So if you wanted a
Some of it
definition.
is for some of 105. We would imagine.
Right.
Let's see what I took today. So this is standing at the right edge at the top of the hill looking down. And this is the silt fence that we saw. As I said, I didn't go down there, so I don't know that there was hay bales as well, or straw bales.
According to the map, how far from base of slope to wetlands is it?
Yeah, it's much more than 100 feet. So I don't believe they even had to file on this lot.
They did not have to file on this lot. It was over 100, but not by a lot.
From base of slope?
From the toe of the slope, yes. There was no earthwork planned within 100 feet of the wetlands.
How close is the siltation now?
There's no siltation in any wetlands.
How close is it?
Well, I didn't measure it.
Roughly.
I mean, it's gonna be 80, 90 feet from, I mean, I didn't measure it, so I just completely would be guessing. It was around 100 feet, say that.
It's close.
100 feet's a long distance.
Well, no, to the buffer, I'm talking, to the buffer zone.
Yeah, that's from the thunderstorms this past weekend. It was a fresh slope. It's not 100% done. You had a couple, it was a couple downpours, whatever. A little silt went, just into the wood line there, and then that's the extent of it.
So this is same position, just turned a little bit. This is stepped back so you could see the piles. I don't know if this is intended to be fill.
Yeah, that's just some extra fill. We're going to use to reinforce the slope, just stiffen up the slope with that material.
So this is standing more on the left side where Alan took the original photo. I'm just turned to the right and then more to the left. Twice for some reason. And then this is pretty much the same first photo that Alan took, maybe from a slightly different perspective. You can see the outflow and all that.
That's just the subdrain for the
house,
home,
right?
Yeah.
And that's unfinished too, right?
Yeah, the site's obviously not finished. It's
Yes.
just there's a backfilled foundation there. It's ready for framing. Obviously, the slope is roughed in. There's more work to be done there. However, it's anytime you have a thunderstorm, you have slopes. You're going to have some movement. It's not in the buffer zone. The project is not in the buffer zone. So, silt's not getting to any wetland.
We will probably go out and visit to check for ourselves how close it is to the wetlands. I think that's the most appropriate action right now for this commission. We don't have jurisdiction if siltation only makes it to the buffer. We only have it if it makes it into the wetland.
Right, into the resource area itself.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I'll bring Alan into this in a few minutes. Sorry, I didn't talk about this. So this is that same position, just zoomed in on the siltation going down here and the way the water's running, all the way into where, as I said, I was unwilling to walk. Yep. Same position, turned extreme to the right so you could see, well, because I wasn't down low, you can see that this is what I believe to be a very steep pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And moving to the next one, let me just do this. Zoom in a little more. I'm not going to zoom in, darn it. This is the neighbor, this is 107's.
Mm-hmm.
During the daylight. Between you and me, the distance that this water falls before it hits Earth is going to do nothing.
That's a pipe that the builder installed just for a drain outside the garage door. That's not the subdrain for the house. The subdrain's on the southwest corner of the building.
So the owner installed this?
The builder installed it.
Builder installed it,
Yeah.
okay.
It just drains water in front of the man door.
There's
It
no water
takes
in
no
these
water almost.
lots.
None, because they were not close enough to the wetlands.
We did issue RDAs.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I forwarded it.
Oh, there we go. There's the picture.
Yeah.
That drop,
Yeah, that takes just like I said, it's for the foot stoop outside the. It's just that has nothing. That says nothing to. That's not subdrain for the house. It's not like roof drainage. It's simply it's got like a little 4-foot drain outside the stoop for the garage door that he put in after the fact, after the after the customer already lived there. So, obviously.
as I say, what concerns me will be anything that happens because of this drop. That's going to inherently implicitly increase the velocity and erosion down below it, because there's no way for it to not. unless that is
So that was-
somehow impervious surface below it.
Yeah, I would think that that's probably just a length of pipe.
Yeah, yes, he
They
obviously just
didn't
trimmed
cut
the
it
pipe
off or
off.
anything, they
Yeah.
just went
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
length there.
Yeah, he just,
'Cause it looks like the hub is still there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, maybe to cut that off and put a couple of flat stones to break it up a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
probably wouldn't hurt.
and that's on 107, Kenwood.
Yes, this is on 107, not 105.
But the builder put it in, so you,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the question is, do we actually have any jurisdiction on it?
I don't
I don't think you.
we do not today have jurisdiction unless we determine that this location made it into the wetlands.
Correct.
Into the above, yeah.
No, into the wetlands,
Right.
Yeah.
not the buffer, the wetlands.
Right.
Oh, yes, I mean, that's the big.
So, can I speak for 1 minute? Or?
Yes.
So today I was going to do some work with that material on 105, at 105 Kenwood. And I was unloading my machine there, and the building inspector was there for whatever reason. He was just there before I got there. And he told me that there was a active stop work order issued by conservation on that lot. And told me if I worked there today, that there will be fines issued. So I had to move my machine, load it back, and go to a totally different job. It changed my whole entire day. So I asked the board, was there ever, at any time, was there a stop work order issued on this property?
So the short answer is, the Conservation Commission has not issued an order, but DCR has.
So I was told that the Rutland Conservation Commission
We
had issued
did
a
not.
stop work order.
We have not issued a stop work order.
DCR did?
DCR did. Let me pull up this and pull up that.
I don't think we would have the authority to do a stop work.
No, we don't have the authority to take any action because until we have evidence that it's entered the wetlands,
Yeah.
that's it.
Tamika, you said we did do an RDA, or the applicant to do an RDA. Was it for, do you remember which address that one was for? Was it for multiple?
It's in the email, on Concom's email, but it was for 3 lots, I think, Craig. I think it was for 105, 107, and I don't remember what the other one
Yeah,
was.
it's
for
103,
Street
105, 107 are 3 lots that
Okay.
Janky Construction owns. Yeah. So, where was this sent to? If you issued
The
this?
owner, that just went into the mail today. And because the advisory ruling we gave for this lot had a condition that all erosion controls had to be in place before any activity.
Even if you're out of the
You're in DCR
zones.
jurisdiction. So we were very concerned about these lots, so we wanted erosion controls before any activity.
Okay, so as far as the conservation goes, that wasn't required, but you're saying per DCR that wasn't required.
I gave a copy of the advisory ruling to the Concom, and Janky has one as well.
But he doesn't have this. Yeah, this was
He doesn't
not.
have
He
that.
doesn't have this yet.
He
So
doesn't have it yet,
Right.
no.
right. So
but the advisory ruling was issued.
Yeah,
yeah, almost a year. Like around, I think it was July 9th or something last year.
July
July
15th,
15th,
2021, so you should have been aware of it, you should have let you know about that.
Yeah.
there was one condition on that advisory ruling, so.
Yeah, which one? The one condition was erosion controls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So the builder is technically responsible for not communicating
mhm.
to you.
But once again, to clear up today's problem,
It wasn't us.
it wasn't you,
No.
and that wasn't even sent out. So there would be no way for us to know
Right.
about that today. That's all.
Right.
That's my big problem because
Mhm.
my opinion is what happened today over there is, obviously it's not has nothing to do with you guys, but it was way out of line and it costs a lot of money. So to rectify this, I'm the site contractor. I'm not the builder.
Yep.
I'm not the applicant.
Yep.
Erosion controls installed.
Yes,
Call you
properly,
properly.
you know, silt fence,
but the total is slow.
hay bales, yep.
And we call you back for an inspection.
Yep.
And then this can get released.
As long as, and especially as long as we don't see any sediment in the primary protection zone. So it's not just bordering vegetated wetlands, if there is, in the primary zone.
Yeah, which is 0 to 200.
Yeah.
Peter, would it help if we
Pretty simple.
just talk about the distinction between wetlands our jurisdiction and watershed and DCR jurisdiction?
Feel free.
I'm just.
I've said it enough. Feel free.
I'm looking at the GIS map, and just the thing that jumps out to me, this is reminding me of looking at this, I forget how long ago it was. The wetlands are much further down the hill, which
Yeah.
is why we don't have
Much
jurisdiction,
further, yeah, I know.
because they're well over 100 feet away.
Correct.
But the edge of Zone A, the primary protection zone, is much further up the hill from the wetlands.
So there is a Zone A, and then there is a primary protection zone. I think the Zone A goes further up the property, closer to the house. So we would have to see where the actual 200-foot zone is. I don't want the Zone A and the primary zone confused on this lot because,
They don't coincide?
no, not
Okay.
in this one. No,
Okay.
no.
The system that you have to switch from one Zoom approach to another. Oh, that's Pleasantdale, so we need to go that way. This is Kenwood, there's the turn. So, I think it's these three. Do you think I'm right, Craig?
Yeah, well, I would say
That one.
It's
That
the one with
that one right there. Also, that's 105?
one. That should be the subdivided lot of all three of them, I believe.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't, I don't know if they're all accurately subdivided on this.
No,
I don't think that. I think that might be this block. This block here. I don't know.
I'm just gonna.
Julian, would you have an idea? I don't know. Maybe this
That's
block
the
here.
one.
That's all
That's
three.
all
Before
three
it
are
was
there.
subdivided.
The
Yeah.
one to the north, Peter, that's a little bit skinnier, is
Yeah.
101.
Yeah. So 103, 105, and 107 are in that
Are all out
block.
of
That's
this.
not shown subdivided. Correct.
Let me just throw the Zone A up here. So this shows how far,
Yeah.
and I don't. Is it easy to get topo on here? Not that the topo would matter because they changed the topology. So let me not confuse things with that.
I was gonna say you could, but it's steep, right?
It's pretty steep.
Yeah.
So there's less primary zone on that property. So
Right, yeah.
there's a lot of Zone A, but less primary.
So at this juncture, there's no activity required of Conservation Commission.
If you guys didn't see anything in your
Well,
jurisdiction,
we'll
then
go
yeah.
out as a group and double.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Get
just
wise,
we'll,
but-
we'll walk out in the next couple of days. Some of us
But,
will.
But primarily, the reason for the stop work order was because the builder ignored the advisory ruling.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll talk to the builder. Builder's out of the country right now. I'll
Okay.
talk to him about, we'll set, erosion control at the base of the slope there,
Okay.
and get in contact with you so you can come.
Yeah, I can give you my email address.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Alan, this is just for my own curiosity. On this property, what's the difference between the Zone A and the primary protection zone?
So I believe the pond itself is throwing the primary protection zone, whereas the Zone A is actually going further north because that wasn't originally mapped with the Watershed Protection Act.
So as far as siltation you're concerned about, that's in the 0 to 200 foot zone, correct?
Yeah, any alteration within 0 to
0
200
to, so,
is
yeah.
And according to the building plans, the corner. I don't want to say this. If we're over here, there was a small section of the hill that actually was inside the primary. A small amount. I'm not saying it's hundreds of thousands. I'm just saying that this would be one of the reasons that they were very interested in having the barrier put up.
Mhm.
So at this point, we really don't need to be too involved. But it really is communication between you folks
Yeah.
to work out whatever you gotta work out.
Yeah.
Okay, so, no, Conservation Commission has not issued a stop order. The building inspector may have been confused because there was discussion about it, but we never issued.
Yeah, I asked him 3 times. He said there's absolutely an order. So I ended up moving my equipment. I went up to town and I spoke to Joe. I spoke to Tamika, and I found out that there wasn't after the fact. After I had just moved to a different job, so I was very. I wasn't too happy about that because I was going to work on that slope today.
So for whatever confusion we added to this, I apologize on the commission's behalf for anybody who we confused by this, but we'll go down and we'll look to agree that there isn't siltation that entered our area of concern. And if there isn't, we have nothing more to do. We, Concom.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's just my name's Craig Bacon.
Alan.
Nice to meet
Nice to meet you.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, let's schedule a reconstruction meeting with DCR for the Long Pond boat ramp.
No.
This isn't Helen, this is George.
Yes, I know that's not with Alan.
I know.
And, so I asked him if it was possible to do it on a Saturday morning, because I know everybody's schedule. He checked with his supervisor, he can do that. So I thought the easiest way to schedule it was just while we were in person and see what works for everybody.
Right, calendar.
So we have a reconstruction meeting with him as well. So,
Yeah, he did it separately because he couldn't coordinate with the DCR folks and with the Concom folks, so he's just gonna do the 2 separate meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that today?
It got canceled for
Oh,
today, I believe,
okay.
because,
ours is on the 26th.
yes, yeah, he pushed it out a week.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I did write back to tell you it was canceled, so I hope you didn't.
No, I did not show up. No.
Okay.
I actually am busy the next 2 Saturdays, so I can't make it.
You have 2 anniversaries in a row?
Sure.
And he hasn't told you about the third?
Depends on what you're celebrating, doesn't it? But I could probably make it on the 26th.
That's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else can make it or wants to
So
make it
I
or
don't know
not.
what you guys.
What time?
So 11:30 to 12:30.
Oh, that's tougher. I can be there at the beginning, but I've got to.
It's pushing concrete into water. It's really not a big deal.
Yeah, I know. I figure it wouldn't.
I mean,
take
it's one of
very
those.
long.
It's about the most undisturbing thing you can possibly do. It's kind of neat. Besides just their pond, it's our pond, but their water.
He's doing it the right way, which most people do not.
I know.
They do not come back before they start, so.
They still gonna do it this fall?
I'm not sure.
I think that is the plan. That was the last thing that he had indicated.
Did you see that email?
I think I did, but I see so many emails that I kind of forget. It's like Peter's anniversary. I forget his anniversary.
He's getting up there in age.
I know,
Oh,
it's catching up.
I'm beyond that in age, yeah.
Catching up. Peter,
So
catching up.
11:30, right? Yeah, that's right. I'm catching up to you, Skip. That's it,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, so don't schedule something for Saturday, just see.
I don't want to
26th.
interfere with anybody else here who's interested in it.
I know Scott really wants to go. I can
What's the
see it in
date
his
so
face.
far that we've got?
That's up to you guys.
6 is next Tuesday at like midday.
You available?
I can go to that. I'm leaving Wednesday.
You can't.
No, we can't.
Well, I'm going to Maine. I'm not going far.
This is like 7 at night.
Also, you'll
You
drive
just
down.
got back.
No, I'm
You're
not.
going again?
I'm going to Maine all the time. She's on the vineyard. I'm here.
Who gives you this much vacation time?
I'm
a nice
retired. I'm
boss.
retired.
We try not to be in
And
the same place at the
And I
same
don't,
time.
and I don't like it. I don't like this retirement thing. It's not working for me.
I got work to get done. Help me.
I'd love to.
So it looks like posted for Tuesday the 26th. And
Great.
whoever shows up, shows up.
Tuesday the 26th, at what time?
At
Alan?
11:30.
11:30?
11:30?
And that's at the boat ramp at Long
Yeah.
Pond, right?
Yeah.
Boat ramp, so.
Yep. Okay, I will let him know.
Scott, too young to be retired.
I know, that's my problem.
You get used to it, though.
No.
You could join more town boards.
Gets into more trouble.
I know, I mean, they get me on one and I still get in trouble.
That was joking.
Oh, really, thanks. You hurt my feeling, that one feeling. Oh, we should look at that when we go over there too.
Look at what?
Add to your note, just write Bryce Lemon.
And you'll tell
okay.
George.
I'll let him know. Yep.
I don't wanna go up Wormy's driveway,
Yep.
cause she said they're clearing those there. You know where, please put in a new house?
Yeah.
The driveway between Wormy's house?
Yep.
Remember we gave these people a no-no?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the no-no people would.
And they yes.
They yes yesterday
Yeah.
again. And I forgot before Michelle comes in and finds me.
You wanna go up there?
We should, if we go over there anyways, I'd like to see it, cause if they're doing it, they're gonna want once.
When do you wanna go there?
After
Same
that-
time?
Same
Right.
time, we're over there anyways.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
that's just to stop in and go,
all right.
More than likely, I can't go on you with that part, and
But that's just one of
I'll
those-
make it first. Yeah, but you guys can.
we're there, take up pictures, and then we can send them out notices again if they're doing it.
All right, so what are
Just
we calling it?
just do, just put just put Bryce
Bryce.
Lemon and I'll remember.
All
If
right.
not, Michelle will yell at me.
Okay, it's in there.
Yeah, I forget what the number on Charnock Hill is, but it's that one.
You know where it is.
Yeah, and actually, that's right, because this is up the driveway.
This is those,
Yeah,
the three, you got his model house, which is nothing, and the three others that were filling and moving, and
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me you're back doing it, but you told us the other day and I kind of forgot. Plus.
Okay. Are you going back to organization? Prioritization?
No, we're gonna do number 4, then we're gonna do organization.
Okay.
All right, everybody, 165 Cannon Road. There have been
Interesting.
communications in both directions, and I wanted to share with you the email that Melissa sent just before this meeting began. That's the one. So these are the questions, comments, issues that the Conservation Commission has with the property at 165 Cannon Road. Do we want me to read this, or are we okay? Now, to be clear, we were given sort of an area where Ecotech did their sampling, but no specifics, and we were looking for where on the map were they. And all we have is general area. And that will actually come up again later. Yes, I guess I will read. The Holden agent's jurisdiction is Holden, and it's an opinion, and RCC, Rutland Conservation Commission, makes the final determination. Yeah, this is the one. We don't know exactly where the samples were taken, so we don't know if the samples were taken from a place that we believe to be wetlands. And
Yeah, we have no way of knowing that.
we don't know, and if they were, those soil samples are polluted, for lack of a better word, polluted. They aren't pure unless you go down below the fill. So there was a dominance of wetland vegetation in the area that was of our concern. Property owners have not submitted any information that demonstrates an agricultural exemption. The presence of surface water can also be blah, blah, blah. There are flow paths in the area suggesting that there's active water flow. Even if the area of fill was not a DVW, it is still in the buffer zone and requires permitting. Even if that permitting were determined to be exempt for agricultural use, it still needs permitting.
Right.
since I wasn't on the sidewalk, I don't have all the context for this one, that the area of the low-lying ponding area and the area of the fill is the same area. I don't know that.
It is.
It is, you think?
Yeah. The edge of the fence where the filling occurred, we did not step on that,
Mm-hmm.
but we were able to observe up to the fence, right? Alan was with us at the time, and it was observed that there was an obvious area of flow that was no longer flowing, but it was a, I won't call it a stream bed or a riverbed,
But there was clearly
but it
flow
was
in the
clearly
past.
flow all the way down to the little pond. The other question we didn't answer at that point was whether that's even Zone A, because that connects low, down lower to Quinnapoxet Reservoir.
Hmm.
And that was, I don't know if DCR had determined if that was Zone A over there or not, because
No, we
it
didn't.
is or it isn't.
No, we didn't determine that.
You didn't determine that?
Didn't get
Right. So at this point, that's unknown. But it would seem to me, because it does make a hydrologic connection from that small pond, that I'll call it a farm pond or whatever. But from that point, it does have a direct connection to Quinnapoxet. So it might be Zone A.
It might be Zone A.
And that's a big might. That's
And-
not our call.
To be fair, that is also not a Concom jurisdictional question. That is entirely within DCR's jurisdiction. We're happy to assist, but that is not something we would.
No. But there
But
was,
we would be interested in finding out the answer if you were to make a determination one way or the other.
but there was obvious area where flow had existed at one point, and it went all the way to the filled area.
Right, okay. Those are our 8 issues and questions. I do see a Joan online, I see some people here. Are any of you for this
We are.
165?
We are.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Joe Somerset.
And I'm Wendy Somerset.
Nice to meet you in person.
Thanks. So,
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Could I get the professional certification of all of you folks, just so I understand how the determinations are decided? Because it's, we went and Melissa Danza had suggested that we hire a wetland specialist, so that's what we did. And now it seems, since you don't like the findings, we can't get this issue resolved. So I just would like to understand what everybody's professional certification is, so that I can understand how that compares to Paul's qualifications. Because Paul, per your area that you identified and Tamika had sent us, correct? A specific area, we've had him look at that area, as well as other areas on our farm. So I guess I'm just confused. One, why he now is not a certified professional that you rely on for our project. And then, so if you can just help me
So he
understand that.
he prepared a plan that he filled with?
no, he prepared
Well,
the report.
His
Before you did
report was
anything-
done
wait.
before.
We're gonna do the steps. You were going to perform some work at some point, all right, and you had Paul McManus go over there and do a delineation
No.
No.
and prepare a plan for you
No.
to work on.
No.
This was
No,
simply
you-
to answer
they-
your question from May of 2021,
All right,
which
so
says
you brought
we're
Paul
trying
in-
to
you
confirm
brought
whether or not
Paul
it's
in
jurisdictional
after the
wetlands.
fact.
We brought him in November of 2021.
Right.
Right,
I had reached out to a number of specialists. I reached out to Scott Jackson, who's also a wetland specialist, and he works at UMass, and he's on the Directors Board of Commission. So I explained to him what we were doing, because this area has been 61A, has always been 61A. and-
61A is a tax classification, has no meaning to the Conservation Commission.
Okay. Well, it's
Well,
been agricultural
it's
use, which shouldn't
agricultural
matter.
use.
That's just a,
Di-
that is a
right.
tax classification.
okay, so
fine.
let's use the.
So 61A,
Right.
all right, tell you right up front, 61A makes no difference to us.
So land in agricultural use. It's
Still
always
doesn't
been
make any
land.
difference to us.
Well, there's an exemption that
No,
applies to
this
that.
does not.
Exemptions apply only when the Conservation Commission determines that
That's
they are.
incorrect. I listened to Melissa Danza's report from June 7th, or her presentation. She pulled those slides after reading the best practices that DEP had put together. And there were a number of things that were inaccurate. And I followed up with Scott Jackson and asked him specifically, as well as Paul McManus, does a farm have to go before the Rutland Conservation Commission and get their exemption approved? And they told me no. And that's why, after sitting on all these meetings for the
Who
last
exactly
year,
told you no?
Scott McManus,
Or Paul McManus,
Paul
Yeah.
McManus,
Yeah.
Scott Jackson.
Scott Jackson, Carrie Sears, who works at 4-H and
Okay.
UMass. I mean, everybody that I've gone
Did
to.
you talk to DEP?
No.
For an exemption to do normal
No,
maintenance?
To ask the question.
DEP provides, well,
DEP provided that presentation to Melissa.
That was not
Danza.
Melissa's presentation.
That was not
it was
Melissa's
DEP's
presentation, that was DEP's presentation.
DEP did the presentation, right? It was
There was
a
DE
document prepared by them.
Yes.
And the title of that was Farming in
Yep.
Wetlands. In.
And it states that you need our permission.
It does not state
Does.
that. I would like to see that in writing.
What-
But can we just,
Someone
can we
on the
just
board-
pause for
but
one
we
second?
don't have wetlands.
Right, we
The
wanna try
burden
to
of proof is on you folks to show that this is a wetland area, okay? And we've been trying to resolve this. That's why we hired Paul, who you suggested that we hire, a wetland specialist. Melissa, as a conservation agent, suggested that last summer. So
Yeah.
I've tried to answer
That
all
would
your
have been the
questions.
best advice we could have given you.
Okay,
Well,
and
that's
we
what
think,
I did.
we think it worked because Paul said, we did the test and we gave them exactly what Tamika gave us with a picture, and it has a little purple thing shaded in. This is what we were
So we
told.
specifically had him look at that area
Let me
and
see.
talk about what, his observation. And we told him, just as I've told Glenda when I bought the farm, I'm building a fence here on the property line and I'm running cattle in here. She walked away and said, fine. 2 years later, it's a problem because a neighbor complains, or 3 years later.
But regardless, we understand you're on the issue at this point, or you have been, and you want to find out, is this a wetland? Paul did his report and said, if there's continuous hydric soils down to and past the ponding area from our property, where you walked out, that polywire yellow fence is basically where our property starts. From there all the way to the ponding area, there's 2 parcels of land. One is the 91 Central Tree in Rutland, and then the other part is the Holden parcel. Where you guys were standing was clearly Rutland, and you took pictures and you saw your jewel weed or whatever it is, I don't know what that is. But the Holden part that goes between where you were standing and the pond is a vegetated upland area per Holden.
And that's Holden jurisdiction.
And
Not
she
Rutland.
said, therefore, so if we have our property, the Rutland piece, and then Holden, then the pond, the Holden piece is upland. So there's no connection to the pond, which means Paul's report specifically says, if there's no connection to that ponding area, it can't be a wetland.
Paul, right, and Paul.
So you guys can look at your flowers, and then if you want to spend the money and go get soil samples all the way, you can do it, right? But the only way you're going to prove anything is
The
to
onus is not on the Conservation Commission.
It is actually.
The onus is on the owners of the property.
It's
Well, we
not.
don't own that property. That's the problem.
No.
We don't.
The property that we visited
Yes,
is in Rutland and not owned by you,
correct.
okay? We followed what appeared to be some type of a stream bed all the way to your property where the filling has taken place.
And
I agree with.
So
Yes,
logic would dictate, all right, that there at some point was flow coming down and dumping into that little pond, that little farm pond
So-
next to the driveways.
Paul gave you a report in December that said there was
Right.
no flow. He
Right.
looked at that area.
There isn't any flow now.
No,
Right.
in December.
in December, in November.
You guys
Something flowed
never came to a resolution
at
and
some point
said,
in time.
Okay, maybe it was
Okay.
500 years ago,
You didn't, because that piece of property is in Rutland.
and not ours.
No, your piece of property that
Yes.
you filled is in Rutland.
We didn't fill
Is-
anything. We reseeded a pasture as
We've
part of
seen
my
video-
pasture
We've seen
rotation.
videotape of a nice blue tractor bringing the fill down.
Yeah, and did
Yes,
you see the
and
rest of the
did you
video?
see
that
the
area.
grass that we planted?
That is Rutland.
Okay,
But-
okay,
it
fine,
doesn't
I agree with you. But let's get to the
doesn't matter.
point, which is Paul's report, the specialist out of all of us, I think.
Right.
Is
And
anybody a
one of the
wetland
things that Paul
specialist here?
said in his
Are you a
report
wetland specialist? I don't.
was that it could not be
What's that?
accurately,
No,
Okay, and Melissa Danza is not a wetland specialist.
Paul's
I-
report
Okay,
you
let's
know.
just,
said that it could not be determined accurately based on the fact that the land had been filled.
No, he
No, no,
didn't
no, no,
say
no, no,
that.
time out, time
He
out.
did
I
not
wanna
say
stop you
that.
right there.
Hydric soil.
that's not
No,
true at
that's not
all.
what
What
he
he said
said.
is, it was not possible to determine because it's not our property. And we didn't tell him to go onto someone else's property.
He
Take-
asked
take
to go
what?
onto the
Obviously,
property.
Right.
He
But-
asked.
But the part that you're missing is the Holden part. So it goes us.
We don't care about the whole.
You can't
You
get
have to-
continuous
you can't get
hydric soil to
continuous.
the pond if Holden's is upland, and that's what
Glenda's
Glenda
already
has already
stated.
said. So you can't get to the pond, and therefore we're not. It's not wetlands if it's just a wet area. A wet area or two wet areas in Rutland doesn't make it a wetland.
And with all due respect, we watched your site visit. You only took pictures of a couple of things. You didn't do pictures all the way to the pond. And it has to be 50% or more vegetative. You didn't take pictures of the whole
It was-
area.
It was more than 50.
Including the
And
part,
with all
including
due
the part where
respect-
there's that whole driveway area,
And
the
with-
driveway.
With all due
That doesn't-
respect,
Doesn't,
But that's the
all
problem.
we're
If the,
talking about, all we're talking about is an area, all right, where, from the pond
Yep.
to your fence, where you filled. There is evidence, all right? Alan was there, I was there, Melissa was there. There was distinct evidence, all right, that there had been flow occurring at some point in time from your property down into that little farm pond, if we'll call
well,
it.
that would
The
be
farm pond then
contrary.
empties down.
let's forget
Into a
about
culvert,
where it
goes
goes
across the
past.
street,
Forget where it goes
connects
past.
with
It doesn't
Winter
matter. We're talking about the pond up. How are you getting past the regulations
We're
which
not
say
getting past any
you're
regulations.
skipping over the fact
It
that
says
Holden is
bordering.
upland. So if Holden is upland,
Holden did not make a ruling.
Yes, they
on-
did. Glenda's report.
Holden is
She
not
sent you a
going to make
report.
a ruling on any land in Rutland.
it's
She
not
made a
in.
not gonna
ruling
do
on
that.
This is where I
Holden.
think there's confusion. Okay,
Does
if I can just say
anybody
this again,
understand
hang on,
this?
one more time. Let me try it again. The pond is in Holden. Then there's a little piece of land between Holden and Rutland, which
Can
is
you bring that up,
vegetated
Peter?
upland property. Upland property
can you bring
per
that up?
Glenda's June 7th email
What, the
letter.
map or the?
The map.
So we start at the pond, then we go to
The
Holden.
pond is not in Holden.
Yes, it
Pond
is.
is in Rutland. We'll show you that in a
Okay.
second.
The other thing I want to point out is, could you give me the definition of a pond per the wetland regulations? Could anybody give me the definition of a pond per the wetland regulations? Because
We're not
it,
gonna argue the semantics.
Semantics
you
are very
have to,
important.
that's the law.
You're gonna see what's.
You have to follow the law.
Yes, we are.
You're not.
We
You're
are.
not following the law. And as a regulatory agency, you have to follow the law, just
Yes,
as I have to follow.
absolutely we do.
But you're not following the law.
I have a feeling.
It's
Oh,
over
it's
here.
Davis Hill. It's Holden, that's too far. It's gonna be right here, I think. Right, because there's Central Tree.
So you see the line, and what you're telling me is that pond, if I can just come up here. I'm sorry, what's your name? I'm sorry.
Joe.
Hi, Joe. I'm Joe as well. So you're telling me that the pond is right here, right next to her barn that's falling down on itself? There's nothing between that because
Can you zoom that, Peter?
That is as far as I can zoom.
So does this look like this could be a pond area or something? Does that look like that's what we might be talking about? Because I'm telling you, you know from the site visit, you didn't walk that close to the barn. It was about to fall over, right? So,
Alright.
so I can
So
tell
that-
you that what you're saying is
Bring up the
incorrect.
other,
Yeah, I'm going right there.
Well, can we go back to that one and,
no, we'll show you right here.
It's
we have to
down.
go this way?
Yeah, I'm not.
There you go. Oh,
Oh,
left.
I think
You
you
were
have to
there.
go left.
No, that's Main Street. It's
Nope.
gonna be
No,
this
you
way.
gotta
Left.
go
You gotta
left.
Pull it to the
That's
right.
that's the golf
I need to
course.
go this way.
Sorry, you gotta pull it the other way.
You gotta pull it to the right.
Oh, ugh. This isn't supposed to show anything from Holden, which is why I'm, where it shows streets. Hey, it does show Holden. Well, screw you, mister. Oh, there's the
There you go.
line. Okay, if I do this and this, oops, sorry, that.
This becomes the farm pond.
So this is the ponding area.
This is the ponding area, and this is the vegetated upland from Holden. And therefore, there is no way to get back over to here, even if this is wetlands, which we're not, well, even if there's wetlands type indicator species, which you took the pictures of.
This isn't the one we went by.
But
Okay,
this,
stop.
this is interesting.
Hold on,
Yeah.
this is not the one we went by. If
Oh.
there's an error, I'd be more than glad to correct it.
Okay,
But
Wendy
you,
said,
but you,
Wendy, please, let them talk.
Let us do our thing here. Do you recall which map that was? Because this is showing the town line here,
Right, which I believe is
which is.
plus or minus the variances of
Yeah.
the GIS maps.
Because
Is roughly the town,
the
because
one
this,
we went by.
this
we went in
property-
there.
this property has a triangle of land. Let me go back to the other map, because it actually shows it.
Yeah,
Oh, that was silly. Don't do
yeah, because
that.
this one has some,
This triangle of land,
This-
as I understand it, is owned by these people, and this is owned by you.
That's correct.
Okay. And I will grant that the property lines are, I know nothing about property lines, I'm not gonna pretend that I,
these maps are not 100%.
Yeah.
Tell you that right up front.
which is why we had a
We
survey
did have a
done.
survey, so we know for sure.
But you never provided us with.
You don't need it.
Well,
Help me, we don't need to, but the property line, for sure, I know, as that picture showed clearly, that ponding area is in
Right.
Holden.
Because one of the disclaimers they put on all of this is not to be used for
Right,
Right,
surveys and stuff.
right.
yes.
so I'm gonna switch to the other map, Joe.
Go ahead.
So, this pond area is clearly in Holden.
On this map.
According to this map, yeah.
Yeah. And I suspect that it's not, I mean, based on where this and this, where these structures are here,
See, we were
In
going by
this
what
map,
Holden said,
they're roughly
saying
close.
that they didn't have jurisdiction because it was in Rutland.
And I think what they might be
Classic-
talking about,
classic
right,
hot
right.
potato.
It's, you take care of it. The only thing I can think of is that they were saying, I mean, I wasn't privy to what the conversations were, they were saying, we can't do anything about here. But maybe there was some miscommunication and they thought you meant here. But, and so that might have been where some confusion happened, but,
All right, but we did walk this,
right,
okay?
But what
We
we're
walked it
saying-
up to where your property line is, which
Yep.
is somewhere around here.
yes.
All right, and there was clearly an area, which you can see right here, where there may have been flow at some point. All the way up into this property, your property,
Right.
all right, which this piece is in Rutland.
Right, although where you're pointing still isn't, well,
But
that's fine,
the
yep,
town line is here.
yep, that's
Yeah.
right. Yep,
Okay, you filled here. All right, and blocked flow to this pond.
well, no, there's no flow, and that goes back to even what Paul said, there was never flow in November, we haven't ever had flow. And if truth be told, there's like sort of this road which that neighbor allowed a landscaper who was renting her place or whatever
Yeah, I remember that one.
to create this whole mess. So we wanted that not to happen, but
Right.
that happened. And so that's all vegetated
was-
upland.
That was not, obviously not your problem.
Right, correct. Although, I think something happened that has caused Glenda to say, clearly it's vegetated upland in the Holden section.
Well, I didn't realize you hadn't sent her Paul's report. I thought you guys were gonna send her Paul's report, but she wasn't aware that we had a wetland specialist hired, so.
No, we have had minimal conversations. The only thing, the only conversations we've had with Holden is just jurisdictional, just
Okay.
whose is it?
So,
We're not in cahoots,
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
were accused, with Holden trying to keep you from being on an agricultural commission or anything like that.
no, we'd be very happy for you guys to be in cahoots on this one because Glenda's already said it can't happen, so you guys would have to fight that out if somehow
No.
she said on
No,
Holden.
If it's in
it's-
Rutland, it's in Rutland. It's not-
Right, but you
There's
can't-
nothing we have to work out with Holden.
I got you, but because this is in Holden, and there's an area in Holden that is, in her mind,
But that's in
upland.
Holden. We're not talking about.
No,
Holden.
but to his point, Joe, there may not in fact be a hydrologic connection between that section that we believe could be wetlands
No.
or a stream up there.
What we did is we walked this thing here,
Right.
that pond, okay? Whether it's in Holden or in Rutland is really immaterial, because we're not talking about
agreed.
the pond. There's no violation with the pond. What we're talking about is filling that occurred over here. Now, that pond does not magically create water. The water comes from somewhere.
Right, it collects from the rainwater, which is
right.
why it's all dried up
But
right
it's-
now, because we're in a drought.
But it isn't all dried up. When we went out there, it wasn't.
You should go
as
back.
obvious
You
as-
should go back, because it's most
It's-
of it dried out.
Okay. But if it's dried out, okay, that's even worse.
I didn't,
That's even worse. Wait a minute. That's even worse because now it could be a vernal pool. And if it's a vernal pool, right, there's even more regulations that come
well,
into
I
play.
guess at the end of
So
the
I'm
day,
just telling you, if you tell me it's drying up,
it's
that's one of
your,
the conditions for a vernal pool.
it's your word against Paul's.
Right, that's what it boils down to. Paul has
No,
laid out
Paul
the
has
rules.
to come to us.
Paul has
Paul
laid
Paul,
out.
Yes.
I already paid for the report, and Paul did go.
Right.
And we're going
We can
before
disagree
you.
with it. We are the authority. We are not in competition with Paul. Paul is a really good guy. He knows his stuff. We're not questioning Paul's credentials at all.
But your question, you
All
won't rely
he
on
did
his
was
report.
give an opinion.
Professional opinion of a
Right.
wetland
Professional opinion.
specialist.
Right. Right.
He said these things have to happen. For it to be bordering vegetated wetlands, it needs to be connected from our property through Rutland,
But the-
through Holden.
Understand where the problem lies. The problem lies that land was modified. Grades were changed. Fill was brought in. Grass was planted.
Excuse me, time out. But the
Wait,
grade that
wait.
changed
But
might have been
the
between the
problem
pond
is-
and us, not on our
The
property.
problem is, okay, you probably should, in the very outset, all right, not assume based on what your neighbors may say to you, or other farmers may say to you, okay, because that's hearsay. What you should have done prior to anything, prior to moving any fill or doing any modifications to the land, you should have came to the Conservation Commission and said, is there anything we need to do?
Well, we
Well,
feel
you
like
could've
we
come to
did,
us, you
but we
could've come
feel
to-
like
you
we
could've
feel
went
like
to
we did.
Holden.
We were told.
I did go to Holden.
We were told to go get a conservation specialist. And we did. And Paul said, if these things happen, it is not a wetlands, therefore no jurisdiction.
Correct.
On June 7th, we got the letter from Glenda, which went to you, which said, it is not wetlands in Holden. Therefore, as she said, it cannot be wetlands. It's not wetlands throughout. It's not wetlands if it's not wetlands in Holden. You can't get to the pond without going through the.
Certain things have to happen, you
Is
can't,
there we have a letter from Glenda urging us to do an enforcement action on this.
We got an email.
Yep.
I do remember that.
What was the date of that email?
Let's see if I can
It'll be
find
in
it.
the folder, 165 Cannon Road.
All right, hold on, give
I may
me
have
just
transferred
a
it to this
couple, gotta find the.
Glenn's
right-
email was May 20th.
And what was the last email that you have from Glenda? The report that she sent to you?
Tamika, do you know?
That
That was
would be-
recent.
Yeah, that would
right?
be in the drive.
Just
And
a
what did
second,
she
I'm
say
getting
in that
there.
report?
I'm getting there, hold on. Are you sure we have something, Tamika? Because there's not a lot there right now. Unless this
No,
is
no,
not
under something
wrong,
totally different,
okay,
no.
all right, that's fair.
So first go under tonight's meeting and see if I moved the folder in there and may or may not have it because there might not have been like there's nothing new to add, so if you go back, it would probably be in the last meeting, so if you went under past meetings for 2022. And then
We could have saved ourselves a lot of grief and aggravation.
Chance to try to change
Had you just said, come on up and take a look.
We
That
both work with
would've
the
been
government.
that
We-
would've been
I
easy.
work with the government, and I work, and I'm a CPA. You want me to call the IRS and say, hey, can we sniff around Joe's, what's his name's, tax returns? You think,
No, what you should have done when you first started dealing with Holden,
With all
and
the,
they informed you that some of your properties in Rutland, you could have come here and said, hey.
well, she told me that I was fine. She gave me a,
Not initially.
we could take down
Yeah,
the
she did
sumac?
initially.
Yes, she did.
She did
We could have the
initially.
cows in there. That was.
When we bought the
she's talking,
property.
he's talking about she, the neighbor.
No,
No,
we
no,
never
no,
talked
we
to
don't
she, the
talk to
neighbor.
the neighbor.
She, Glenda.
No, we don't
Glenda-
listen to the
so
neighbor.
Yes,
Oh.
the neighbor.
Oh.
So,
Get the
you
neighbor.
say we should have, as new farmers to the area. We did. We
We
called
did. I
Glenda
called her
out
up.
when we first got here.
She walked right
She
in that
walked in
area.
the
I told her
area.
exactly what I was doing. I have not hidden anything. She said it was fine.
We love computers. Okay, let me first do this. That. I'm trying to get it up there and I'm moving. Because I need to do that.
You try to put it up on the screen?
Yeah.
That's the May. Do you have the June? It was June.
Hold on, just reading this one first. All right, so let's try and get the other one.
if you scroll down, I think it shows the whole email chain.
I think it's, they're asking for the next
Oh,
in the
okay.
chain, not the previous.
Okay.
Yeah, this wouldn't be necessarily an email. This was a letter on Town of Holding Conservation letterhead.
What was
I
it?
don't know if it's different. That was June 7th, 2022.
No, I do not have that.
You don't have the Rutland Conservation Commission, the letter from Glenda?
Not here.
Okay, has anyone not seen this?
Oh, wait a second. Look what I found. All right. It was there. It just wasn't as obvious to me. Where did you go?
It's right there with the
Could've
little
went up the top
triangle. It says
someplace.
memo from Holden. Right on the tab. Nope, down. Nope. Where the little colorful triangle is. Yeah,
To the
there
left,
you
right
go.
above where it says Rutland, Mass. Oh, there you go.
I've never managed to drag into another window like that before. They always open separates for me. All right, let me make that big and do a little.
Oh, this is the one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There. That's more readable. Anybody ready for more?
Now, there is that other letter, right, because that pertains to the land in Holden. There was another email, probably in between this one and the previous one. Where she strongly recommended an enforcement action.
But at this time, she actually went out to look at the property.
Okay.
So before that, she.
Oh yeah, anything that's 20 years old, we're not gonna.
So she
But
looked at the
we're talking
property.
about filling that has taken place just recently.
But here's the point for us. On June 7th, it was, so back in December of 2021, Paul said, this cannot be jurisdictional if there's no hydric soil all the way back.
Right.
Then June 7th comes along and Glenda says, my opinion, it's vegetated upland, there's no connection. Therefore, it's not wetland, not bordering
Glenda
vegetative.
can only talk about.
And she's talking
land in
about,
Holden.
she's talking about the land in Holden, which
Right.
therefore,
Which,
you can't get to the
Right.
pond.
But the filling occurred in Rutland.
Okay, can you just let me finish?
Yeah.
If you believe Paul, which I feel like you're not, but that's okay, that's a different story.
Paul
If-
and I go back a long ways.
Well,
And
then,
he
then,
has-
then,
He has
then,
never steered me wrong.
Joe,
excellent,
let him talk.
thank you. So Paul says, you need to have continuous hydric soils from where I tested into the Rutland and Holden properties to the pond. He tested our property, check, hydric soils, okay? You may be in a wetlands, but you're not if you don't have it in Rutland and Holden.
Right.
You came out, no hydric soils, but looked at plant life and said, probably. If we want to go further, maybe we'll do a test and we'll do hydric soils. Fine. So now we're 2 steps of the way there. Step 3, the land in Holden. Glenda already came out and looked and said, not wetlands, it's upland, whatever, vegetated upland area. Therefore, the land in Holden is not, and since you can't get to the pond, which is also in Holden, without the land she's commented on,
Right.
it is vegetated upland. That will not be hydric soils. So therefore, there's no connection, and therefore, our area, although hydric soil, is not BVW. And if it's not BVW, we can seed it. We can put down grass for our cows.
it's not.
We don't have
wetland.
to come ask you for an exemption because it's not a wetland. That's
correct.
And that's where we got to on
It-
June
It would be
7th.
an isolated wetland, but that is not jurisdictional, just to clarify if I'm understanding correctly. It'd still be considered a wetland area, but it wouldn't be jurisdictional if it's isolated.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where we got to on June 7th. If we put down some grass seed after that, what's the problem? In our mind, we had already spent the money for Paul, was told, if these things occur, you guys are free and clear to do what you want. June 7th, we got the letter from Glenda saying, you're free and clear. It is vegetated upland area in Holden. Therefore, we cannot connect it. No matter what Rutland wants to do to you, they can't get there from here. So therefore,
No, we-
no BVW, you guys can fill and don't need to deal with this anymore.
Okay. It's almost but not quite that simple. Because if there is a wetland within 100 feet of any work that you do, then it is jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission.
And our property is more than 100 feet, and Paul's report went through that, because I asked him to put that in there, and he looked at that. And it's more than 100 feet
From that pond
from the pond to our property, is more
up
than
to where
100
that,
feet.
to that fence, all right, that was less than 100 feet, is
Well,
there?
Paul's saying it's more than 100 feet, so
But he didn't go on that property.
he
We
did it
stood
from the
there, I stood
mapping, he
there,
said it was
he
obvious.
did it with the mapping. I stood there with my
Right.
son's golf thing and measured it to be
He said
over,
you could see it on the
over
mapping.
40 yards, just about 40, 120 feet.
Is your fence right at the property line roughly?
Almost, not quite, it's a little.
I'm getting about 130 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus minus.
So you haven't found that email from Glenda?
No.
I did. And so Glenda sent an email on May 20th mentioning the enforcement order. I'm getting the impression that her recent letter, I think she's changed her opinion. Is
Because she
my
went out,
understanding.
she went out.
Yes.
Yes.
But that was too late for us.
Yes.
Yes. Well, yeah, we just got that letter very recently.
The June 7th letter.
Correct.
Yeah, we received it after, because we had a meeting on June 7th, and I don't think we had received it before we had the meeting, because I had that on the June 21st.
Right, the letter is
folder.
dated the 7th, so we probably didn't have it.
Right. Till the next meeting.
Exactly.
I think she was gonna come, but she couldn't. That's why she wrote the report.
And that was where we kicked off.
Okay, so,
One other thing I just wanted to mention, Peter, just because I was reading Glenda's letter, I did read Glenda's letter, and I also went back and read Paul's original letter and his latest letter, which is July 15th. And I remembered his original letter, he said it was questionable, whether it was a BVW. He said he couldn't tell because he couldn't go on the adjacent property to confirm. He says in his latest letter, the uncertainty in my December 15, 2021 letter has been addressed. And he does indicate in here, in his opinion, it is not a BVW.
Yeah, they
because
both backpedaled.
They yes.
Right.
They
Yes.
both recently backpedaled.
Well,
Okay?
Paul was.
Or investigated more, however you want
I
to
think
say it.
Paul stated it pretty well in his first letter. He said, "I can't make a definitive opinion,"
Right.
which is fair
Right.
because he wasn't able to get into that piece of the land to confirm it. And now, based on Glenda's letter, he's saying, okay, based on this information, he can now confirm that it is not a BVW.
Right,
That-
this is all after we did the OE,
Yes.
or the EO.
So that's how I understand it, based on my review.
so to my mind, the question for the commission tonight is, was any work done that should have come before this commission for approval, whatever you want to call that?
At least an RDA. I don't know about.
Perhaps.
I
mean,
don't
it's-
know
if
about
it's-
NOI.
If it is, in fact, far enough away, I mean, an RDA is good practice. I don't dispute that. It's a good idea to have everybody covered to do an RDA. But if they were far enough away from the wetland and of all the jurisdictional spaces, I'll ask the question again, was any work done that required filing with this commission?
Potentially.
I
That's,
didn't do the sidewalk, so I can't speak to
Yeah,
the
I
site
wasn't there,
conditions. Yeah.
Alan, you have an opinion?
So Glenda walked that Holden property on your neighbors? Okay. And she's a wetland scientist?
She's the Holden
Holden
Conservation Agent.
Conservation agent.
So does she have a degree or a background in wetland technology or anything? I'm just saying, she's saying that there's wetland or upland or whatever separating.
Right, she's
the
calling something
pond.
up here upland.
But you questioned our degrees on, wetland scientists and everything. So, I don't know, that's just her opinion. So, could that area be bordering vegetated wetland? It's just coming from her and she's not a wetland scientist.
But I guess, she has jurisdiction in Holden.
Well, technically, she doesn't. The Holden Conservation Commission has that. She advises them. She works for the Holden.
Okay, but I think we can say that the Holden Conservation Commission would give her some weight, like you would give
Oh, absolutely,
Melissa some weight,
absolutely.
right?
So I'm gonna ask my question again. Joe, where is the work that you think that they did that required or may have required filing with Concom?
At the fence separating the two properties.
The one that's 130 feet away. You think
Well,
that's
wetland.
his number?
Well, the thing is, it's not gonna be easy to determine the hydric on your property because it's been built.
You don't need to. We already know it's hydric. We have that done.
Okay.
So the question is,
But the question becomes whether it's hydric all the way to the pond.
so the only way that happens is if, because we have someone who has more.
Did Paul advise you of any options?
I'm sorry. What's your name?
Paul,
Jared.
Hi, Jared. So Jared had it perfect. He read the letters. In December of 2021, well, Paul did the stuff in November. In December, he gave us a report that says, I can't tell because it needs to connect. If it connects, you have wetlands. If it doesn't, you don't. So that's where he left it. It wasn't leaving it open to backpedal. He said, that's my professional opinion right now with the information I have.
And we asked him, so we can't use this area. He said, no, you can use this area. You can do whatever you want in this area.
You can continue to farm in wetlands. He wasn't saying we can't build a building.
And then he talked about a lot of different things, and he put in his report, I think, something about blueberry bushes. We talked about. He said, you know what would be really good, and you know what's
It would be a perfect spot for blueberries.
is blueberries. And I laughed and said, well, we have 4 or 5 blueberry bushes right now. We can't keep up with what. My kids will cry if I plant more blueberry bushes because we can't keep up with the raspberries and the blueberry
When you're
bushes.
done, you're done.
But
Right.
I wanted to know. I asked, well, what does well in hydric soil, and what does that look like? What does I just asked for my personal soil knowledge, So we talked about a lot of different things. So I said, well, then I can't have the cows in this area. He said, no, you can. So I went on his advice and the information that he gave us because he's the professional. So
in December, he gave us a report that says you can do the farming in wetlands. You can continue doing what you're doing, if it's even wetlands. Right now, it's questionable. So we didn't really have an answer, and we really didn't do anything until we got the notice from Glenda that said, I've been out to the property. It's vegetated uplands. Therefore, this is quite simple. Paul's report makes it clear. You have to have continuous hydric soil all the way through, and I can tell that my opinion says you don't on the Holden side. Therefore, it can't be continuous if there's an area that's not going to be hydric soil.
It's not contiguous to the Holden side.
It has to be all the way through.
Right, but it's not on the Holden side, it's all on the Rutland side.
That's right, but you can't get you can't get to the pond, which is in Holden, remember? So this part, that's the vegetated upland. It doesn't matter what you were looking at over here. If it's vegetated upland here, you don't have a connection. Therefore, even if we have some wet areas, it's not a wetland, it's not a BVW, it's not bordering. There's no B. Right? So if it's not bordering and we're 130 feet away, we can put down grass without we can do more than that. We could put up a building. I'm not saying we are, but if this is all true, right, if it's not bordering vegetated wetlands, then we can certainly put down grass seed.
It appeared, the soils and the plantings appeared from that pond all the way to your fence to be wetland species.
But not in the Holden piece.
No, forget the Holden side.
The Holden
We don't
piece
care
matters.
about the Holden side.
I know, that's the problem, but you're missing, you don't have connection. Because remember, you thought the pond was in Rutland.
This area where we walked,
Yes.
all right, everything leading from the pond up to here, all the vegetation, which was what we were looking for, all right, to determine if it is continuous all the way. And we determined that it looked like it did.
Okay, so,
That was our determination.
but
all
but
right?
Glenda said
And we
no.
also, our eyes were not the only eyes there. Alan was there too. Okay? Now, the other question that needs to be resolved, okay?
We haven't resolved this one. Let's not go
Well,
further. Because
whether
we
it's
can't
zone A,
muddy
now,
it. We
zone-
can't, let's not muddy it, please. Focus on one thing at a time.
what
Right, but if it's zone A,
Okay, so that's a
Number
yes, I'm
one.
listening to you, but I'm not going to.
Then-
We're gonna muddy this.
no, we're not gonna muddy it. We're gonna try and get rid of the mud. We're trying to clarify this, all right? DCI has not ruled whether that, or investigated whether that is in fact zone A, right?
Or, well, their primary zone, I mean, it could be, it's probably zone A as well, but we talked about that before. There are ag exemptions for a lot of things, but as far as the wetland aspect of the project, we're not sure if, there is a break right there. And you're saying, you're relying on Holden's
Conservation
agent to
agent, right.
determine that it's upland.
Right. Right. And she doesn't owe us anything. She does not owe us anything. So
Yeah.
she did her job, and that's what she said, and that's what Paul thought too when he first came out. And he saw different things than you, obviously. It was a different time of year, but he saw his vegetated upland. She definitely did. And that's what breaks it from being bordering on our property, and more than 100 feet if that's even relevant.
So what do we propose to do here?
If it's more than 100 feet, it's null and void.
Right, but the problem is the soils from the pond going up.
But if it stops being, we don't know what the soils are
Right. And that's,
on,
but that's in Holden. On
Right.
the mapping that we were using when we went out there, which we had used in here, when we initially looked at it, showed that pond to be in Rutland. That whole pond and the line actually showed from here. Parallel to this, I mean,
Yeah,
but it was shifted. And it showed that pond to be in Rutland. And that's why we walked around the pond, that's why we wasted our time on that.
I don't know
You
what
have an-
tools,
you-
I
you
don't
have
know
an
what
actual
tools you're
survey?
using. What I can say is that
$3,200.
I see
Just
no
curious.
evidence that the
I'd have
pond
to
is
go back
in
and look.
Rutland.
$3,200?
We have 70 acres, so yeah, they
Yeah.
put in a bunch of pins.
But yeah.
How far, where's the line really to the pond? According to that survey,
Yeah.
roughly is that accurate?
The property line? Or-
Yeah, it's showing on this, how wrong is that property line in that map according to what you have?
Well,
for
this
survey?
is not property
I-
line.
I know.
This
Like,
is
I-
town of Rutland
Right,
line.
that's what I
Uh,
mean.
I mean, the property line kind of goes from pretty much here down
Do you
to
want to go
here.
back to the
Okay.
mass map?
Yeah, let me
Maybe that
just
shows
go
how-
Yeah,
back to
property
this one
Yeah,
here.
that's- Maybe turn the aerial on.
That,
I don't know how to do that in mass map. Teach me.
I can show you.
this property
You
line.
see,
Yep.
there. Is the accurate traffic light coming right there?
Yeah, I don't
Click on
think
that.
I've ever,
2021 aerial.
just curious.
We're doing this.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
And that's why I'm just trying to get a little bit more.
I've never, I don't think we have any issue with the
We-
property lines, that they're, that the
Okay.
map seem, you know, what
Like,
happens
wait,
is when
like
we look at
what's Rutland
GIS.
and what's Holden?
No, it's actual
Oh.
property line, right?
and stuff.
Right, so the property line, this shows the property line here.
Right.
So it is these people's property in Holden, according to this map.
Right. So we were on the property legally.
Sure.
I mean, it wasn't like we were trespassing or anything. But the owner did allow us on the property.
And again, if I'm reading this right, if this is, I'm just gonna say approximately the property line between these folks and you, this area is very far away from this here wetland.
Right. The fencing, when we were out there, the fencing does a jog like this.
No. Our fence?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Comes
no,
up your driveway.
you're talking about the wooden fence,
Yeah, it comes
which
up
has
your
a
driveway.
curve. No, our driveway's over here.
Okay.
That's our driveway.
What's this?
That's
That's
our
her-
wooden fence. That just
Okay.
surrounds. But that's the jog you're talking about, way inside
Okay.
of our property.
All right.
So I'm back to the question I've asked a couple times now.
If you're outside
Okay,
the
I
100, you
think-
got nothing.
Yeah, I think at this point,
I mean, just
DCR
based
is
on the
gonna own
maps,
this. Well,
assuming the maps that we have are approximately correct, assuming you're telling the truth about the work that you've done and where it is on your property,
You don't have to assume, they saw that. Like, we didn't come over
Yeah,
onto the
right.
neighbor's
Oh, no, we-
property.
You were cool on it.
for me, it's an assumption because I didn't
Oh,
know it's.
okay, I understand.
So
I
so bear
understand.
with me, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I would push it. It's got to go back to DCR because if they want to prove
If they
hydric
wanna-
soils,
if
then
they wanna s-
that's their thing.
Right.
I mean,
They
we
wanna
acted on
do-
the information we were given with the questionables of the first two, and the last one that we just got from Holden and everybody else didn't come until after our last meeting, after the enforcement order. So we were just doing what we were told for information until after what they just pulled up.
If we're operating on incorrect information, we're more than glad to correct it.
So I would push it.
So-
So you vacate the enforcement order, and you push it back to DCR if they want to figure out different soil conditions, then they can figure
DCR
it
sees
out.
fit to do anything
Yes,
there
so
or
you,
nothing
so,
else.
so if you're asking, you vacate it because you have no, after the latest 2 emails that we got after the fact, I mean, I wasn't here last meeting, but in that, you read them and go, okay, so that's what our teeth were put into, of making us do something. And, okay, so they've kind of went, well, so unless somebody's gonna do
And
some,
you have that,
unless somebody's gonna do some very
you
deep
have that
borings.
email from Glenda?
Yeah,
The letter?
yeah,
Yeah.
We all do.
The one I was talking about.
yes.
Oh,
yeah,
the
all
email.
three.
Yeah.
From May.
Yes,
I
yes.
did find that.
But that's the thing is, unless somebody's gonna do some deep borings to
Just
say
for
it
your
was under there.
information, this is what we were operating on.
Yeah,
It's fine,
put that up
they
there?
showed us.
he read it. He read it.
So-
Showed it.
Okay.
Vacate the EO.
I was gonna
No, I
say,
didn't
make
say-
a motion, please.
I make a motion we vacate
Before we
the.
do that, the letter that Glenda recommended an enforcement
He already
act,
read it.
have you seen that?
We got it, we're past
Yes,
that, way
yes,
past it,
yes.
move
Good.
along.
I
She saw
make a
something
motion we
else.
vacate the enforcement order.
I'll second it.
All right. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Gentilucci, aye.
Clock eye.
Langer, aye.
Don't lie.
Crane, aye. We're done.
No, go on.
Excellent, thank you.
So you can take care of the paperwork, Tamika?
So, Alan,
I'll just
is
have
this
to check.
something you
I've
think
never
you
done
guys
this
have any
before.
interest in going?
Well, neither
through
of us,
this
so we can all
down,
learn.
Yeah, I'm not
figure
really
out
sure
whether
how it's
we're
done,
allowed
but I'll
to
figure
have our
something out.
cows.
Okay.
I'll reach
That's
out.
not my call. I gotta bring it to the
DEP,
director.
hopefully,
and
not
see if
me, I
they
might be
wanna
able to help
you
Move
with that.
forward with this or
Okay.
whatnot.
I can reach out.
'Cause we-
Who's the director now?
Dan Clark.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I'll bring it to him. and-
Moving on.
And I
What's
guess
next?
the question is.
What's next?
Peter's anniversary.
Let's,
Peter's third anniversary. When is that?
let's clear that. Reorganization!
Now, I'm not gonna say anything, but I did say I told you so.
Stop.
And yet you said something. So, moving on. So you lied. You lied before the commission. Do
That's
we need to
right.
take
I
action
did
against you, Joe?
Take me to court. Lock me in jail.
Okay, reorganization. Peter, you're in charge. We don't.
You sure? You sure somebody else doesn't want this fun?
We really don't give a shit. Have a good time.
We're good.
I make a motion when Peter's in charge.
Second.
Jared.
All in favor?
Jared.
All in favor?
Jared. Joe.
Aye.
Roll call vote. Peter.
So even if I say nay, it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter. See, I just took care of that.
So who do you,
Actually,
who
we
gonna
should
have
have just said
co-chair?
we vote to
Oh,
make no
Melissa's co-chair.
change.
Melissa, does-
Melissa.
Melissa runs a great meeting when Peter's not here. I'll make a motion when you leave Melissa a second.
I'll
Second it.
Gentilucci, aye.
Clock eye.
Don't lie.
Langer and I.
Crane, nay. No, I'm joking.
It's on the record now.
Yeah.
So you lied too.
Yeah.
We're
Yes, I did.
all fired.
We're all going to get fired soon. See, that's how you get away from
So
this.
who are you gonna have for a clerk? Jared?
Oh, I was
No,
before.
she's not a clerk.
Oh,
Yes,
secretary.
she is.
No, she's
a
not.
secretary.
She's not.
She
No,
is.
she's not. She is a secretary.
No, absolutely not. A clerk need not be a member of the board.
You guys voted me something last time. I don't know what it was now.
It was
Well,
clerk.
actually, we had
The clerk?
changed that position. We used to call it clerk way back when. But we had changed it to vice chair.
No, that's,
Because you were my vice chair.
Right, and I got all the checks.
All right, so Melissa would be the vice chair, not the clerk. in this-
No, she's not the clerk. Jared's the clerk.
Okay, who's the
Yeah.
recording secretary?
There.
Okay.
Joe, it's time for bed. You're
So, hey, everybody got titles
It's getting
except
late.
Scott and
So,
I.
do we want to make Jared the clerk again? Somebody make a damn motion.
I make a motion.
Make
Jared, the
Jared
clerk.
Second.
Roll call.
Don't lie.
Langer and I.
Clock eye.
can't vote, right?
He has to,
Yes, you can.
I can vote for myself?
you can vote for yourself.
Gentilucci, aye then.
Crane,
I
aye.
should have voted.
All right, so we pretty much maintain the same issue, the same thing.
No, we did maintain the same shit. I mean, same.
Yes,
Make sure that
yes,
gets in the
yes.
minutes, please.
Exactly right.
That's fine. I didn't finish the word.
Okay.
All right.
Asterisks.
Put in
Smile.
brackets, expletive deleted.
Okay.
Smiles.
We can all harken back to Nixon White House days.
Harkin.
All right, six,
Harkin.
Harkin.
Can you still spell that word?
6.
Harken.
I would move that we table that for the time being because I would really not want to discuss that.
We
with
are not
Melissa.
doing 6 tonight. That is being
Yeah.
pushed to the next meeting.
I was
Where
just
hopefully
giving-
we don't have
I was
so
just
many-
putting the excuse out.
5-2.
5 as well.
5, what's left for special oh crap.
You guys wanted to review the
We wanted.
We did, we're gonna put that, push that off, and we're gonna make
do I
this a
think-
2-hour and a couple minute meeting.
Yeah.
So, is there any other business before the commission?
No.
I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I was gonna say, no. Skip has to make the
Is
motion.
it
He's always
possible
first on
to,
that.
is it possible
I
to
was,
weigh in
never
on
mind,
this
I was
issue?
gonna say something, that's all right. I adjourn, motion adjourned.
Second.
Oh, there's a Joan. You are trying to speak then before we do anything. Please.
Committee members,
Yes.
is it possible to just make a few comments?
Absolutely. It's public comment. We need your name and address, please.
Cody Coyne, 105 Glenwood.
105 Glenwood.
Please, go ahead.
They're just, some of them are just general comments. It would seem that before a meeting that if there's a property on the agenda to be ruled on, that it should be thoroughly looked at and appropriate data taken before any kind of ruling is made on it. And there's a concern that, and it's happened more than once. And I'm concerned about that. It doesn't seem thorough.
Okay. I understand what you're saying.
I guess the second comment is that I know you're worried about offending people, but before there's construction on a site, it just seems logical that you would want to make sure that you're square with DCR and the Conservation Committee and not come to your meeting and complain that you were shut down. That I'm also, the other thing I'm concerned about is what the last decision that you just vacated. There are properties around Rutland that are built smack dab right on top of wetlands. And we've been to meetings there where we've been told it's all based on the soil and the plants. It doesn't matter whether you're up, you drain into it or drain down from it. It's the plants and the soil. And so much time was spent on, well, does this drain into that? When wetlands don't have to be contiguous, they can be separate. And I don't understand what just happened tonight based on what other people have been told at other meetings about this ruling. And it's frustrating, it seems inconsistent.
Well, the fast answer is what happened tonight was that we made a determination that based on most recent information that there were no wetlands violations of any sort. So we vacated the enforcement order because the enforcement order was based on the most complete information we had at the time, but more recent information tells us that that enforcement order was not proper with our most current information.
But didn't Joe say he saw soil and the appropriate plants on that property? He said that pointing to the map. He said it more than once.
Right.
And that's what we've been told. Other people have been told. It's not about the water, it's about the plants.
We didn't have,
That's what designates it as a wetland.
right. The wetlands that we're talking about right there are in Holden. Rutland Conservation Commission has no jurisdiction in Holden.
And the places that they filled are
in Rutland
and far enough away from the wetlands that Rutland Conservation Commission has no jurisdiction to issue an enforcement order.
The other distinction I want to make sure is very clear is isolated vegetated wetlands and bordering vegetated wetlands are different.
True.
Isolated wetlands might have wetland indicated plants hydric soils, but they are not jurisdictional. Not under the state regulations, and we do not have a bylaw that protects isolated vegetated wetlands.
And the,
And-
or the acreage.
Yeah, size.
And if it doesn't qualify as isolated land subject to flooding, yes,
Right. Right.
correct, yes. Then it would be protected by state regulations. Bordering vegetated wetlands are jurisdictional, are protected by state regulations, and there is a significant difference between the two. So I just wanted to point that out. You could find an area that looks like wetlands, but it may not be jurisdictional if there is not a hydrologic connection.
I think the other concern about this whole process is that if you look at on the Massachusetts state government about wetlands, it does state what these people did. You know, they sought out a wetland specialist, but they hired that specialist.
Correct.
And in most arenas, there is the concern of a conflict of interest there.
Well, there could be, but the other side of it is.
I mean, for example, this just was a very important concern related to the Boeing 737 malfunctions, where they were hiring FDA, the federal government, and they were doing the flight checks themselves instead of the federal government, and there was an exchange of money there. And I mean, there are other examples there, and the system is somewhat flawed there, and that there is room for a conflict of interest there. And to say that they're always up and up, I don't think you can guarantee that.
No, and that is why under most circumstances, this commission verifies the information that comes in, usually by site walk.
Right, exactly.
But even without a site walk in this case, we could determine that the work was not jurisdictional.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that supposedly what other people have been told as far as rulings being based on plants and soil, that didn't seem to be, unless it wasn't being quoted correctly, that didn't seem to be coming up in the report by the wetland specialist. They were talking about flow downhill and uplands, when in other rulings, that's never been a discussion. It's all been based on plants, and it didn't really matter whether there was water on it or not at the time. Were the plants and soil there, which we were told is the gold.
He's confused.
And you know, what happened, but you need to understand that the discussion about plants and soils was contained in the report, and so we just obliquely talked about it rather than talking about it explicitly tonight.
Right.
They were the wetlands scientist, whose name I suddenly can't remember. Paul McManus, thank you.
From Ecotech.
Did the work to analyze the plants and soils, and we referred to it throughout without explicitly talking about the soil. So it's not that we didn't consider it. We did consider it. It's just we didn't talk about it a lot tonight. We talked
because that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm paying you guys a compliment. I'm not criticizing you.
Well, thank you then.
We understand the concern with conflict of interest is, and it's a real concern. It's a valid concern. One of the things that kind of helps us out on that is Paul McManus is a guy that does a fair amount of work in town, and if we catch him in a lie, obviously DEP will also catch it, and he risks his license. Okay, so it's like a professional engineer stamping a drawing and saying that the builder has to build the house this way, or the building this way, the structure, whatever. And the building inspector says, okay, the stamp says this is how it's gonna be. All right, so they start the work. And the building inspector just verifies along the way that whoever stamped the drawing has been telling the truth for all intents and purposes through his drawings. And we do the same thing. That's why we do site walks and actually go out to verify. Paul
Right.
McManus is well known to this group, and Paul is generally a very astute individual when it comes to wetlands. And we verified basically what he had been saying.
And he said,
Alright.
and he said they're
Where the
hydric soil.
confusion came in, okay, is there's a property boundaries that span both towns, Rutland and Holden, okay? And the wetlands, all right, are basically in Holden, the wetlands that we were looking at. So, we don't have jurisdiction over those wetlands. Holden made a ruling that we just recently found out about, right, which was the latest information to come to us, saying that they determined that it's not, that it was uplands rather than wetland. All right, and based upon that information, it removes jurisdiction from us for anything further coming into Rutland, because it had to be proven that it's contiguous. All right, and
Why
if-
does it
if
have to be
Holden-
proven contiguous?
Because that becomes
You
part of
found
the
plans
definition.
on their property though, didn't you?
No, we didn't go
You
on
said
their
that you
property, no.
found-
The people that were here tonight, we went on the neighbor's property, which is in the same
What
kind of
was your-
situation where it's half in Holden, half in Rutland.
Did I misunderstand it? I thought the original reason why that was ruled wetland was based on the soil and plants. That's not true?
No, the pond at the neighbors is wetland. That's
Right,
not a
That's
question.
not a question.
It's not
The
a
question is there a hydrologic connection and therefore wetlands between that pond and where they filled and through where they filled? That was really the question we needed to answer. And based on the best information from
Right.
the experts involved, it was not wetlands.
I thought that Paul said he saw evidence of water flow, and he used the word evidence. Is that
Water
not
flow
true?
is insufficient by itself to make a wetland.
But the plants weren't there also?
Around
On
the
their
pond,
property,
yes.
no. Not on
Not
the
in our
people's
jurisdiction.
properties that we were dealing with tonight.
Right.
And not within our jurisdiction.
Right.
That's not what I remember, but I'll take your word for it. I thought Joe went to the map and said, this is, we saw plants and soils here. This was the basis for our decision.
Right, and
Maybe I misunderstood that. I'll have to go back and look on the tape.
the area he pointed to is by the maps we use today in Holden, and therefore not jurisdictional to us, even though the mapping tool that they were using when they visited said they were in Rutland. So that was part of the confusion.
There were errors on the mapping.
Again, in that example also, there weren't measurements. There was a need for those measurements at the meeting, and there should have been photos of it. That's something controversial. You still don't know the exact measurements.
It wasn't off by 4 or 5 feet, it was off by like
20 or 30.
30 feet. And that we're not gonna,
And you got a property line in between, and you got a town line in between them.
yeah.
So you don't have access to both sides of it. So you got property lines and you got town lines. That's what really
And the
makes this very confusing.
The only thing that overrides all of that is the Zone A, which is not Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. That reverts to DCR, and that's why we left it to DCR. We had a representative here tonight.
And DCR is gonna figure out
And
they want to do
DCR
it.
is going to look at that. So what has happened is it has moved up the ladder. We didn't find problems on what we have jurisdiction over, but DCR may have a problem. And that's up to them, we don't get involved with that.
So just as a kind of a conceptual idea, how does the Conservation Committee allow for seasonal annual variations in climate. I mean, you can have a dry year when certain plants and things aren't there, and other years when it's wet. It was my understanding that one of the major objectives is to whatever was wetland, you try and conserve it so that it can remain wetland in the future.
So
Even
the
if
fast
in a
answer
dry year-
is,
Wetlands.
the fast answer is we rely more on soils than plants for wetlands because the real answer is always in the soil.
Yes.
Okay.
Soils rule.
And wetlands move.
And yeah, and
And
wetlands.
wetlands move. They get bigger, they get smaller, they move.
That's why a permit issued by by this commission is only good for 3 years. Because any longer than that, the wetland could have moved. All right, and taken more of the, whoever's, before it's taken more of their land or taken some away. So it's, that's why the permit's
Then
only
why
good for
was
3
mine-
years.
Why was so much time spent on discussing contiguous then? It should be just a done deal if it's based on soil.
Yeah.
That's because there was a question, if it was continuous, it was a BVW, which is drinking water supply, which is a whole new set of rules. By it not being connected, it's not a BVW, which changes the set of rules. I think that might be that's a whole nother layer of this.
And that moves
And
up.
that moves it up to other things. And the fact is that now there is the connection. There is no connection as far as visual is shown. That gets rid of the BVW, which negates a lot of the other parts of this. So number one, we're
So
Go ahead.
the concern is, there was someone that made the comment, the reason why it isn't contiguous is because of human development. Was that wrong, or is that
They're not
correct?
sure. That piece could have been filled 20 years ago. So unless somebody is going to allow you to do test bores that are X number of feet of filling done, and they're going to allow you to do them on the property, there's no way to prove or disprove whether there's hydric soils underneath the filling. So it reverts back to a visual example of what is there now, and that's.
And the part that Holden was commenting on is in Holden.
Right, and that's the thing is that the big thing is parts of this over the town lines is a big problem.
How do you prevent people from manipulating a wetland outside the buffer zone based on flow in and flow out? How is that checked?
Well, there's nothing jurisdictional outside the buffer zone. So if anything that anybody does outside the buffer zone has nothing to do with us and gets that were you listening to the whole meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, so that whole discussion about 105 Kenwood was really about work done that is not jurisdictional to Conservation Commission because it's being done outside of our purview and only becomes part of our purview if they did not take appropriate care and let some form of erosion sedimentation get into the wetlands. So
And that's why we're going out to verify.
that's right.
Right. Rutland
So
has a lot going on.
That's right. The fast answer is somebody who wants to do something outside of our jurisdiction. We don't have jurisdiction. We can't prevent. We can't note. We can, in some cases, we know about it in advance. We can comment, but we can't stop someone from building when it's outside our jurisdiction.
Right, and that's why on that 103, 105, that's why the cease and desist came from DCR, because it's in their purview, not ours.
Right.
Are you obligated to contact the appropriate department if that does come to your attention?
Yes.
We up? I don't know if there's a legal obligation.
We do.
Always do because it is what we would call best practice. We always want to maintain good relationships with our state brethren, and so we will, and we have contacted them in the past. I've certainly put comments in, and I don't remember if I did on this one, for the building permit for 103 or 105, excuse me. I may have put in a comment that says, you are very close to Zone A, you may need
Right.
DCR, and in fact, DCR was involved in that, so.
DCR did issue a permit,
Yeah.
an advisory opinion.
Advisory.
So we do, irrespective of, honestly, I don't know what the law says about our requirement to report. We report because it's the right thing to
We
do.
probably share more than they want us to. They get stuff and go, we don't care. But yeah, we share basically anything we're doing. Because Rutland is very tough because there's a lot of zone A, there's a lot of watershed. So there's a lot of crossover on things.
There's a lot of state eyes.
And that's also why we do a lot of site walks and even, i.e., impromptu site walks, because the mapping is the maps that you see online are a general guideline, but you can go out to places that the map says it's this, and it might as well be a desert. There's never been water there. It's just of how whatever the satellite went over at whatever time, and it shows something. So that's why we spend a lot of time walking around town.
You have to verify.
How do you get an agricultural exemption?
That is a complicated process involving the Massachusetts, is it the Department of Agriculture?
Department of Agriculture.
There we go. And you have to be able, I don't remember all the steps, but first you have to be classified as a farm and agriculture by the state. And then,
You gotta make X number of dollars off
that's
it.
right.
Yeah, and in use for at
livelihood.
least 2 years, Skip?
Huh?
Is it in use, in farming for at least 2 years?
Yeah, it's gotta be in farming for at least 2 years.
Yep.
And then, if you want to do work that may be jurisdictional to Concom but exempt, you come before the Conservation Commission and say, this is the work we plan to do, and we rule whether or not it is exempt and what other filing needs to be done. If any filing needs to be done.
Right.
So
Thank you.
each activity is subject to its own exemption ruling.
It's per activity, not per the land.
Right. It's not on a farm.
Right.
There's nothing that says everything you want to do in this farm is fine. It's you want to fill this, you want to fence that, you want to build this thing. And anytime they're within the jurisdiction of Concom, we rule whether or not there is an agricultural exemption.
Are there follow-up site visits to sites that have been approved that are close to the buffer zone?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, there's finals on them.
There are, depending upon the exact site, we do a number of walks, because there's the one when they file after they've delineated the wetlands. There's the walk after they put in whatever erosion controls. There are walks that we can do anytime during the construction phase, and
then
there's
there's
a
a
walk at
certificate
the
of
end of
compliance.
it in order for us to say this work is complete and was done according to the rules.
And that gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds. The
Right.
property can't change hands, can't be sold until that's recorded.
I'm surprised we didn't have any this week.
So a builder who builds a house and doesn't follow the guidelines that we've laid out, we won't issue a certificate of compliance,
They can't sell the house.
and they can't sell a house. They're on the hook until they're in compliance.
But yet that has occurred.
Oh yeah.
Well, things happen sometimes. There's no ideal process. There are no perfect people.
It hasn't occurred in a long time. It hasn't happened in a long time.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All that we know of, anyway.
Well, yeah, you find out after the fact.
Have we answered your questions sufficiently?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry to keep you, gentlemen.
Oh, that's fine.
That's all right. We're here to answer. We are here to answer.
We're here to
your
answer. You're
questions.
welcome to attend.
Come on in and see
You're
us.
welcome to join.
Join.
We have an empty
an
slot.
empty seat. We're always happy to help you and inform you.
We're really a fun group.
Yeah, we weren't as fun tonight as usual, but that's life.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn. I wanna go home and eat.
Me too.
I do too.
Who's gonna
Second.
second?
I
I was
already
going to
ate,
say,
so
somebody needs to second here. Thank you.
Who seconded?
Jared.
Oh, Jared.
Roll call.
Gentilucci, aye.
Clock eye.
Langer and I.
Don't cry.
Crane, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all so very much for attending. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes.